Across the silent deserts, beneath forgotten temples, and hidden deep within jungles untouched by time, lie relics that defy everything we think we know about human history. Perfectly carved stones from an age before tools existed. Cities aligned with the stars long before telescopes. Artifacts that whisper of technologies or civilizations that shouldn't have been possible. Archaeologists have unearthed answers to many of our past's riddles, yet some discoveries remain like cracks in reality itself. How were 100-ton blocks moved with no machinery? Why do cultures oceans apart share the same symbols, the same myths, the same gods? And what truths might be buried beneath the ruins we've yet to uncover? These are not the tales of fantasy or fiction. They are real mysteries, recorded, measured, and unsolved. So sit back, take a deep breath, and prepare to question everything you thought you knew about our ancient world. Let's uncover the bizarre, unexplained archaeological mysteries that science still cannot explain. You step through the dry Anatolian air, ascending the rugged terraces of the upper city at Hattusa. The path converges on a pair of silent sentinels, two massive lion sculptures, hewn from limestone, flanking the narrow passageway into the city's heart. Their open mouths are carved with care. The manes ripple in stylized waves. The eyes, once inset with white and black pigments, would have caught the light of sunrise and shadow alike. Before you stretches the chambered gate, walls of polygonal masonry rising in precise geometry, stones fitted so tightly that not even a sliver of paper could slip between them. This is the Lion Gate, the southwest entrance to Hattusa, the capital of the Hittite Empire in the late Bronze Age. The towers that once framed the gate were vast. Internal chambers loomed behind them. The gate chamber itself is over 6 meters wide, nearly 8 meters deep, and led inward toward the city's innermost defenses. Wooden doors, perhaps bronze-sheeted on the exterior, would once have swung closed and been sealed by bolts, their hinge sockets still visible today. From an archaeological perspective, the Lion Gate served as both protective barrier and symbolic threshold. The twin lions were guardians, wards against evil spirits, declarations of royal power, embodiments of divine protection. The construction technique is often celebrated. Enormous blocks of stone, cut into irregular yet interlocking shapes, assembled with astonishing precision. Some scholars even draw parallels to other ancient lion-flanked gates, such as that of Mycenae, suggesting a shared language of symbolism across the Bronze Age world. And yet, beyond the realm of accepted scholarship, the Lion Gate holds mysteries that whisper through the centuries. Why, for example, were the exterior faces of the towers left partly rough, their final smoothing never completed? Was the construction interrupted by conflict, or did the unfinished surfaces serve a ritual or symbolic purpose? One of the lion heads, fractured in antiquity, was later restored. But how much of what we now see reflects the gate's original visage? Beneath one lion's paw, small hollows are carved into the stone, likely used to hold offerings or libations. This small detail hints that the gate may have been more than a military structure. Perhaps it marked a sacred boundary, a place where travelers paused to make offerings before entering the capital of a mighty empire. Then there are the faint markings, nearly invisible unless the light strikes just right. Hieroglyphic symbols that some interpret as inscriptions naming a title, an office, or even a deity once associated with the gate. Others dismiss them as mere surface wear or tool marks. The truth is uncertain, but the idea lingers that these lions may once have spoken in a language long forgotten. Why lions? Across the ancient Near East, lions symbolized strength, divinity, and the sun's fierce energy. To the Hittites, they may have represented the protective power of the gods, a force guarding the threshold between the mortal and the divine. But perhaps their meaning ran deeper. Could the gate's alignment, catching the rising or setting sun at key moments of the year, have imbued it with a celestial connection? Some suggest that metal or gemstone inlays once filled the lion's eyes, glinting at dawn and dusk to create an almost supernatural effect. No ancient text confirms these theories. No surviving record explains the gate's symbolism in full. And so the mystery endures. Standing before the Lion Gate today, it is easy to feel a presence, not of ghosts or myths, but of intention. Every chisel mark seems deliberate, every contour purposeful, as though the builders were encoding meaning into stone. What stories did these guardians once witness? What rituals passed between their carved forms? The lions of Hattusa have watched the empire rise and crumble, have seen armies march, cities burn, and centuries turn to dust. Their silence endures, but their gaze, unyielding, eternal, still meets ours. We may understand the stones, the structure, the tools that shape them, but their deeper message, the reason they were placed here, at this gate, at this moment in history, remains just beyond reach. And so, as the Anatolian wind whispers through the ruins, the question lingers. What did the Hittites wish to guard? Not just from enemies, but from time itself. As we leave the rugged hills of Anatolia and the silent guardians of the Hittite Lion Gate behind, our journey takes us south, across seas of sand and into the heart of Egypt. Here, beneath the sun-bleached plateau of Saqqara, lies a labyrinth of darkness, an underground necropolis that has puzzled archaeologists, engineers, and mystics for more than a century. This is the Serapeum of Saqqara, a place where ancient stone breathes with an almost unnatural precision. The entrance is narrow and unassuming, a simple descent carved into limestone cliffs. But as one moves deeper, the temperature drops, the light fades, and the sound of one's own footsteps becomes a steady, rhythmic echo. Torchlight flickers against the smooth walls of tunnels that seem impossibly straight, leading to vast chambers, each containing colossal granite sarcophagi, silent and unmoving, like sleeping titans beneath the earth. There are 24 of them in total, each one carved from single blocks of granite, some weighing over 70 tons. The lids alone are estimated to weigh more than 20. Their interiors are polished to a mirror finish, their corners perfectly squared, and their surfaces display a precision that challenges even modern machining. The question that has haunted generations of researchers is simple: how? Mainstream archaeology tells us that the Serapeum was built around 1350 BCE, during the reign of Pharaoh Amenhotep III, and expanded under his successors. It was a sacred burial site for the Apis bulls, living embodiments of the god Ptah, revered as divine messengers between humans and the heavens. When an Apis bull died, it was mummified and laid to rest in these monumental stone boxes, accompanied by offerings, inscriptions, and ceremonial rites. It's a compelling explanation, logical, consistent with Egyptian belief systems, and supported by certain hieroglyphic records found nearby. But even within this framework, questions persist. Why such colossal containers for single animals? Why was so much effort, so much mastery of stone, devoted to something that could have been achieved with far less? And more importantly, how were these sarcophagi moved into position through corridors so narrow that, by any reasonable measure, they should not fit? Some suggest that the builders used ramps, levers, and lubricated sledges, a feat of human coordination and engineering ingenuity. Others point out that such methods, while theoretically possible, would have required space, tools, and workforce logistics not evident in the tunnel's current structure. The debate has become a riddle of both mechanics and motivation. The Serapeum's geometry only deepens the mystery. The box's right angles are nearly perfect, Their interiors are so finely finished that even laser measurements show minute deviations, sometimes less than a millimeter across entire surfaces. To achieve that with hand tools of copper and stone seems, to many, implausible. In the mid-19th century, French archaeologist Auguste Mariette was the first to rediscover the Serapeum, its entrance buried under centuries of desert drift. His writings convey both awe and confusion. He described the sarcophagi as astonishing in size and workmanship, and admitted that their construction defies comprehension. Even with the benefit of modern study, that sense of bafflement remains. Within these chambers, light plays strange tricks. The polished stone reflects torchlight in a soft sheen, giving the impression that the boxes absorb and hold the glow rather than scatter it. Some visitors report a sense of vibration, a subtle hum, as though the granite resonates at frequencies just beyond hearing. Could this be imagination, a byproduct of the confined space and heavy silence? Or might the ancient builders have understood something about acoustics, about resonance, that we have yet to rediscover? After all, Egyptian architecture often reveals an uncanny relationship with sound. The echoing corridors of the pyramids, the harmonic chambers of temples, the whispering stones of Karnak. More speculative theories suggest that the Serapeum was not built for bulls at all. Some propose that it predates dynastic Egypt, that the Hittites, or an even earlier civilization, might have carved it long before the reigns of the known pharaohs. Others point to the lack of detailed inscriptions on the sarcophagi themselves as evidence that they were inherited, reused, or repurposed for ritualistic functions whose meaning has been lost. There are those who go further still. They speak of the Serapeum as a form of energy storage, or resonance chamber, or even a vault for something far greater than animal remains. These claims, though unproven, stem from one undeniable truth. The Serapeum does not fit neatly within the known capabilities or motivations of its time. And yet, we must be cautious. Extraordinary craftsmanship does not demand extraterrestrial intervention or forgotten super technology. It demands respect for the genius and persistence of those who labored here, with tools we may underestimate and methods we no longer remember. Still, the questions persist, and perhaps that's what gives the Serapeum its enduring power. Why such effort for a ritual site buried in darkness, unseen by the living? Why construct chambers so large, so precise, and yet so hidden? And what purpose did the silence serve? Standing inside the main gallery, surrounded by these massive granite vaults, one can't help but feel small, caught between reverence and disbelief. Each sarcophagus bears the same deliberate symmetry, the same cold perfection. They do not tell us who built them. They do not reveal why. They only exist, immovable, unyielding, eternal. Somewhere, beyond the reach of certainty, the Serapeum still keeps its secrets. Was this truly a tomb for sacred bulls, or the remnant of a knowledge far older, buried beneath dynasties, beneath myth, beneath time itself? The echoes fade as you step back toward the surface. The desert light returns, harsh and blinding, washing away the shadows of the underground world. But the memory of those perfect boxes, of their impossible scale and silent presence, lingers long after. The sands of Saqqara conceal many secrets. The Serapeum is only one of them. And as we continue our journey through the world's most perplexing archaeological enigmas, one question remains. What other mysteries lie just beneath our feet, waiting for their moment to be unearthed once again? From the shadowed corridors beneath Saqqara, we journey east, beyond the Nile, across deserts and plains, into the cradle of civilization itself. Here, in the ancient lands of Mesopotamia, Where the Tigris and Euphrates once nourished the first cities of humankind, rise the silent giants of Sumer, the Ziggurats. Their forms dominate the horizon even now, stepped pyramids of baked mud brick, rising tier by tier toward the heavens. Time has worn away their edges, sand has reclaimed their corners, yet their silhouettes remain unmistakable, stairways to the gods. Among them, none more famous than the Ziggurat of Ur, standing solemnly near the ruins of a city that once glimmered with trade, art, and devotion nearly 4,000 years ago. At sunrise, the ziggurat glows a muted gold, its massive platforms casting long shadows across the dust. Birds wheel overhead, their cries fading into the open sky. To stand before it is to feel a presence, ancient, deliberate, and vast. Archaeologists tell us that these monumental structures were temples, mountain-like sanctuaries built to connect Earth with the divine. Each ziggurat was dedicated to a patron god, its summit housing a shrine accessible only to priests and royalty. The Ziggurat of Ur, for instance, was built in honor of Nana, the moon god. From its terraces, offerings were made, rituals performed, prayers carried upward into the sky. The structure itself is a masterpiece of early engineering. Rising originally to more than 30 meters, its core of sun-baked brick was sheathed in fired brick held together with bitumen, an ancient form of waterproof asphalt. 3 monumental stairways, each over 100 steps, converged at a gate halfway up, where priests once paused before ascending to the sacred platform. Its symmetry, precision, and orientation to the cardinal points suggest not only architectural skill, but deep astronomical knowledge. And yet, for all we know, the ziggurats conceal as many mysteries as they reveal. Why were they built in this form, stepped and towering, when earlier temples were small and low? Why this monumental leap in scale and complexity? Some scholars see the ziggurat as an imitation of a cosmic mountain, a bridge between the mortal and the divine realms. Others interpret them as symbols of political power, monuments meant to assert the authority of kings who claimed divine favor. But then there are questions that linger beyond conventional explanations. Many of the ziggurats are aligned not just to the compass points, but to celestial phenomena. Some researchers have noted that the Ziggurat of Ur may have been positioned in harmony with lunar cycles, a fitting tribute to the moon god. Others suspect a broader astronomical pattern linking multiple Sumerian cities, as if each ziggurat was part of a vast terrestrial constellation. Could these alignments have served practical purposes, perhaps in agriculture or navigation, or were they symbolic reflections of a cosmic order known only to the ancient priests? There are also curious linguistic echoes in the Sumerian and later Akkadian myths. The ziggurat was called Etemeniguru, house whose foundation creates terror. In other cities, the names translate to House of the Seven Guides of Heaven and Earth, or House Binding Heaven and Earth. The language of these titles is striking, suggesting awe, power, even danger. Were these purely poetic metaphors for divinity, or did the ancient builders perceive their structures as something more, a place where divine and mortal realms truly met? As we move from Ur to the ruins of Uruk, Eridu, and Nippur, the pattern continues. Stepped towers, similar in form, each claiming connection to the gods. The ziggurat of Eridu, some say, was the oldest, built for Enki, god of wisdom and the deep waters. In Sumerian legend, Eridu was the first city ever founded, raised from the waters by the gods themselves. According to ancient tablets, it was here that humanity first received the Me, the divine laws and arts of civilization. Could the ziggurats have served as physical manifestations of that gift? Places where divine knowledge was stored or renewed or communicated? More speculative voices have long drawn parallels between the Ziggurats and other tower myths across cultures, the most famous being the Tower of Babel described in later Hebrew scripture. Some historians propose that Babel's tower was, in fact, a memory of these Mesopotamian ziggurats, structures that, to foreign eyes, might well have seemed like attempts to reach the heavens. Others suggest that the myths arose from real disasters, lightning strikes, earthquakes, or the collapse of such towers, that were later woven into moral or theological tales. But even beyond scripture, a deeper mystery persists. How, in an age of primitive tools, were these immense structures conceived, coordinated, and sustained? Tens of thousands of workers, millions of bricks, organized across decades by a people whose written language was still in its infancy. What kind of leadership, what kind of knowledge made this possible? Some fringe theorists go further still, imagining that the ziggurats were not just temples, but devices, energy conductors, astronomical beacons, or even markers for contact between worlds. These ideas, while lacking evidence, persist for a reason. There is something about the ziggurat's form, its geometric precision, its enduring presence, that feels purposeful beyond mere architecture. And perhaps that is what makes them so compelling. Each ziggurat stands as both monument and mystery, a fusion of earth and heaven, body and spirit, built with devotion and precision by people whose worldview we can glimpse but never fully understand. When you climb their terraces, or imagine doing so, you ascend not just through space, but through layers of meaning, from the physical to the mythic. Today, many of these ancient towers lie eroded, their bricks scattered, their temples long vanished. Yet they remain symbols of an ambition that transcends millennia, the desire to touch something higher, something beyond reach. What did the builders of see when they looked up at the night sky from their temple summit? What songs, what prayers, what knowledge passed between the stars and the stones? The answers lie buried somewhere beneath the Mesopotamian sands, perhaps in a forgotten tablet, or beneath another unexcavated mound. And as the desert wind whispers through the ruins, one can't help but wonder, were these ziggurats merely monuments to gods, or messages from an age when heaven and earth were still one? From the vast deserts and plains of Mesopotamia, our journey moves eastward, across mountains, rivers, and dense forests into the misty highlands of Southeast Asia. Here, in the remote Xieng Kawang Plateau of northern Laos, the landscape is dotted with a phenomenon unlike anything else in the world: the Plain of Jars. Spread across rolling hills, this field appears at first glance as a natural scatter of stone, but as you approach, the scale and intent of these objects becomes undeniable. Hundreds of massive, weathered stone jars, some over 3 meters tall and weighing several tons, sit in clusters, balanced precariously on uneven ground, their mouths open to the sky. The air here is cool, tinged with the scent of damp earth and wild orchids, and the silence is punctuated only by the distant calls of birds and the occasional rustle of bamboo. Archaeologists believe that these megaliths date from the Iron Age, roughly between 500 BCE and 500 CE. Local legends, recorded over centuries, suggest that they were used in funerary practices, perhaps to hold human remains, ashes, or offerings. Excavations have revealed fragments of pottery, human bones, and evidence of cremation near some jars, lending credence to this theory. Yet, the mysteries of the Plain of Jars run far deeper than the basic archaeological explanation. Why, for instance, were the jars carved from such heavy stone, often sandstone or granite, and transported over hilly terrain with no obvious roads or infrastructure? Some jars sit atop high ridges or precarious slopes, as if placed there deliberately for reasons we may never fully understand. What drove these ancient people to undertake such monumental labor, shaping and moving stones of enormous weight with tools that, by modern standards, seem rudimentary? Then there is the question of scale and distribution. Thousands of jars are scattered across dozens of sites, arranged in clusters, yet with patterns that defy easy interpretation. Some researchers suggest the placements mark ritual or ceremonial zones, perhaps linked to seasonal cycles, cosmology, or territorial markers. Others notice that the jars often align with natural features such as streams, ridges, or the horizon, raising the possibility that their creators imbued the landscape itself with spiritual significance. One particularly compelling enigma is the variation among the jars themselves. Some are cylindrical, others are more rounded. Some have simple open mouths, while others bear carved motifs or indentations along their rims. What determined the form of each jar? Were these differences functional, designed to hold specific types of remains, or symbolic reflecting status, clan affiliation, or religious hierarchy? Over the centuries, the plane of jars has accrued layers of myth and folklore. Local oral traditions speak of giants or spirits crafting the jars, or of ancient kings who commanded their creation as monuments to the dead. Some speculate that the jars served as vessels not only for human remains, but for ritual feasts or sacred libations, connecting the living to their ancestors. Others posit that the jars functioned as markers for astronomical or calendrical observation, a prehistoric attempt to measure time, season, and the cycles of nature. Modern explorers face additional challenges. Much of the area remains littered with unexploded ordnance from the Indo-China conflicts of the 20th century, leaving some clusters largely inaccessible and shrouded in danger. This adds another layer of mystery. Parts of the plain may remain untouched for centuries, holding artifacts or structures that could dramatically reshape our understanding of the site once discovered. The sheer audacity of the jar's construction invites speculation. How were these stones quarried, shaped, and transported without the aid of modern machinery? Some fringe theories suggest external influence, perhaps knowledge lost from a prior civilization, or techniques now forgotten. Others point to ingenuity alone, levers, rolling logs, coordinated labor. But the details remain frustratingly elusive. The fact that some jars appear cracked or deliberately broken in antiquity raises further questions. Were these ceremonial deactivations, symbols of ritual closure, or the result of conflict and environmental wear? Walking among the clusters, it is easy to sense the weight of time pressing down. The jars seem almost to watch, silent sentinels of a vanished culture. There is an uncanny feeling that the landscape itself was shaped for more than practical purposes, that the plateau served as a stage for rituals, observances, or ceremonies long forgotten. Each jar, in its simplicity and grandeur, hints at knowledge and belief systems that have left no written record. What secrets remain buried beneath the soil or hidden among the stones? Could there be tombs or chambers yet undiscovered? Evidence of a more complex society than we imagine? Might we be glimpsing only a fragment of an elaborate spiritual landscape, where each jar was a conduit between the living and the dead, the earthly and the divine? Even today, archaeologists continue to uncover fragments and clues, but the plane of jars resists full understanding. Its sheer scale, its diversity, and the care with which each stone was shaped and positioned speak of a culture deeply concerned with death, memory, and the cosmos. Yet, the absence of clear inscriptions, texts, or records leaves us dependent on interpretation, observation, and intuition. As the sun rises or sets over the plateau, shadows stretch across the jars, highlighting their curves and contours, and the air seems to thrum with echoes of a distant past. The silence is profound, broken only by the wind and the occasional bird call, a reminder that time moves differently here. Ancient time, enduring, patient, and secretive. The Plain of Jars challenges us to confront the limits of our understanding. We see the physical evidence, yet the meaning slips through our fingers, like water through stone. We are left with awe, wonder, and a sense of humility before the ingenuity and mystery of those who came before us. What were these jars truly for? Who carved them, and why? And what might remain hidden, still buried, still waiting, beneath the soil of the plateau, waiting for a future generation to rediscover the lost rituals and forgotten knowledge of a people who shaped stone into silence? The questions endure. The jars remain. And the mystery of the Plain of Jars is as profound today as it was centuries ago, inviting all who come here to ponder the invisible threads connecting the past, the living, and the eternal. From the monumental stone towers of Mesopotamia, we journey further east, leaving the deserts and ziggurats behind, to a landscape of misty plateaus and rolling hills where time seems to move differently. Here, in the remote highlands of northern Laos, stretches a place as enigmatic as it is ancient, the Plain of Jars. At first glance, the plateau appears unremarkable, its undulating terrain blanketed with grass and scrub. Yet, as one draws closer, the earth reveals its secret. Hundreds of massive stone jars scattered across the hills, their mouths open to the sky like silent witnesses of a bygone world. Some rise more than 3 meters in height, many weigh several tons. Carved from sandstone, granite, or limestone, they are weathered by centuries of sun, rain, and wind, their surfaces mottled, cracked, and pitted. Standing among them, it is easy to sense both their presence and their purpose, though the meaning remains elusive. Archaeologists have dated these megaliths to the Iron Age, roughly between 500 BCE and 500 CE. The prevailing theory suggests that the jars were part of funerary rituals, perhaps containers for human remains or cremated ashes. Excavations have revealed fragments of pottery, charred bones, and traces of ritual activity near many of the sites. Local folklore echoes this, recounting that the jars were once used to hold the dead or to store offerings for the spirits. Yet even within this framework, mysteries abound. How were such massive stones quarried, carved, and transported across the hills, often to locations with no visible roads or ramps? Some jars rest on steep ridges or precarious slopes, their placement precise yet seemingly impractical. Did these locations hold spiritual significance, or were they dictated by the landscape itself? Then there is the matter of scale and distribution. The jars are arranged in clusters. Some sites contain dozens, while others hold hundreds. But the patterns are neither uniform nor easily decipherable. Could these groupings correspond to clans, lineages, or social hierarchies? Or perhaps they mark ceremonial zones, sacred pathways, or alignments with celestial events? Some researchers have noted that certain jars appear to interact visually with features of the surrounding terrain, as if the landscape itself had been orchestrated into a stage for ritual performance. Variation among the jars adds another layer of intrigue. Some are simple, cylindrical forms. Others are squat, rounded, or adorned with shallow carvings along their rims. Were these differences functional, symbolic, or both? Did size or shape indicate the social status of the individual or the type of ritual performed? The absence of inscriptions leaves these questions open, inviting speculation rather than certainty. Beyond practical explanations, the Plain of Jars is steeped in myth. Local legend attributes their creation to giants or ancient kings, claiming that the jars were crafted in a single night or by supernatural hands. While these stories cannot be verified, they testify to the enduring sense of wonder and reverence the site has inspired for generations. Some scholars have suggested that the jars may have served multiple purposes over time: ritual storage, mortuary vessels, or even markers for territory or pilgrimage routes. Others posit that the jars' placements could correspond to astronomical events, seasonal cycles, or water sources, hinting at a sophisticated understanding of the natural world. The mystery deepens when considering the labor involved. Moving these stones, some of which weigh several tons, would have required remarkable coordination and ingenuity. How did the ancient people of the plateau achieve this with Iron Age technology? Did they use rolling logs, sledges, or levers, or might there be methods now lost to history? The unanswered question of technique adds to the site's enigmatic allure. Many of the jars bear signs of intentional breaking or cracking, though the purpose is unclear. Were these acts part of ritual closure, symbolic gestures marking the end of a life or ceremony? Or were they the result of conflict, environmental pressures, or the passage of millennia? The answer remains buried, obscured by layers of time and soil. As one walks among the clusters, the silence of the plateau is profound. The jars, immovable and austere, seem to observe the world, their presence commanding reflection and contemplation. It is impossible not to feel the weight of history here, the human labor, devotion, and belief embedded in every carved surface. The plain of jars evokes a sense of connection to those who lived, died, and worshipped here, even as the specifics of their culture remain tantalizingly out of reach. Could there be undiscovered chambers beneath the jars, holding treasures, remains, or artifacts that might illuminate their purpose? Some areas remain off-limits due to unexploded ordnance from the Indo-China conflicts, leaving parts of the site unexplored and preserving the mystery for future generations. What secrets lie buried beneath these hills, hidden from view, waiting for the right hands to uncover them? Even now, the jars resist complete understanding. They reveal fragments of a culture, gestures of belief, and echoes of ritual, yet the full story remains tantalizingly out of reach. They are at once monumental and intimate, silent yet speaking to something profoundly human: the desire to honor, to remember, and to connect with forces larger than ourselves. Standing among these ancient stones, one cannot help but wonder, who carved them, and why did they devote such effort to these massive containers? Were they markers of life, death, or the unseen world? And most intriguingly, what knowledge or traditions have been lost to time, buried beneath the soil, waiting to be rediscovered? The plain of jars continues to defy easy explanation. It is a testament to human ingenuity, devotion, and mystery, a landscape where the echoes of the past resonate across the hills and through the ages. The jars remain, silent yet compelling, their secrets intact, inviting all who encounter them to ponder the intersection of history, ritual, and the unknown. And as the sun dips behind the highland ridges, casting long shadows across the plateau, one is left with a sense of both awe and curiosity. A reminder that some mysteries endure, untouched by time, waiting for us to ask the right questions and listen closely to the stories that stone itself can tell. From the misted plateaus of northern Laos, where the stone jars of the Iron Age silently guard their secrets, our journey carries us farther west, across rugged mountain ranges and narrow valleys, to a land of stark cliffs and high-altitude deserts, the Bamiyan Valley of Afghanistan. Here, carved directly into towering sandstone cliffs, once stood the colossal statues of the giants, monuments that have fascinated, mystified, and puzzled travelers for centuries. The sheer scale is immediately striking. The larger of the two statues, before their destruction, stood nearly 55 meters tall, dominating the valley below. Its smaller counterpart rose to roughly 38 meters. From a distance, they seemed to emerge naturally from the cliffs themselves, as though the rock had simply grown into human form over millennia. Their carved features were monumental yet delicate. The folds of robes, the serene expressions, the intricate details of hands resting in meditative gestures, all testaments to extraordinary craftsmanship and vision. Scholars date these statues to the 6th century CE, created by Buddhist artisans during a period when the Bamyan Valley was a thriving center of learning and spiritual devotion. The statues, carved into the cliffs above a thriving monastic complex, were more than symbols. They were objects of veneration, intended to inspire awe and contemplation in those who approached. Pilgrims would ascend the terraces and caves, witnessing the figures towering above them, a reminder of both human skill and the divine. Yet, even within this historical framework, questions linger. How were these colossal figures carved with such precision, using tools available in the 6th century? How did artisans scale the cliffs, shape the rock, and achieve such proportion, symmetry, and fine detail across surfaces so vast? Even now, attempts to replicate similar techniques with modern equipment struggle to reach the same level of scale and finesse. The location itself provokes curiosity. Why choose this remote, high-altitude valley for such extraordinary works? The cliffs are imposing, the terrain rugged, and the winters harsh. Some suggest that the site was chosen for its strategic position along the Silk Road, a crossroads of culture, commerce, and religion. Others speculate that the choice was symbolic, a meeting point between earth and sky, a natural amphitheater where light and shadow played across the carvings in ways that might have enhanced their spiritual impact. The statues were not isolated. They were accompanied by thousands of smaller niches and caves, many containing murals, reliefs, and inscriptions, some of which depict scenes of everyday life, devotional practice, and Buddhist iconography. The murals' vibrant colors, though now faded, would have complemented the figures, creating an immersive sacred landscape. How much of this has been lost to time, natural erosion, and human conflict? How many layers of history remain hidden, waiting to be uncovered in the cliffs themselves? Their destruction in 2001 left a void, both physical and cultural, but also intensified the sense of mystery. The remaining niches, fragments of limbs, and the empty cliff faces provoke reflection. Why were such towering figures constructed only to be vulnerable to human action? And what does their absence tell us about the fragility of memory, art, and devotion in the face of history's turbulence? Beyond these tangible mysteries lies a more subtle enigma. The sheer audacity of the sculptures suggests knowledge, coordination, and resources beyond what might be expected for a remote valley in the 6th century. Did these artisans rely on techniques now lost to time, methods so advanced that modern archaeologists struggle to fully comprehend them? Some have speculated that scaffolding, ramps, and a highly organized labor force were required, yet the scale of planning and effort still inspires awe. There is also the spiritual dimension, elusive and profound. The statues were designed not merely as images, but as vessels of presence. Many scholars believe that sunlight at particular times of day would strike the figures in specific ways, animating them with shadow and light. Could these effects have been intentional, designed to create a fleeting, transcendent experience for pilgrims? Were the positions of the statues and their accompanying caves aligned with celestial events, lunar cycles, or solstices, embedding cosmic order within stone? The Bamyan giants stand as a symbol of both human achievement and human mystery. They remind us that art and devotion, scale and precision, imagination and labor were intertwined in ways we only partially understand. The statues provoke reflection on our capacity for creation and the impermanence of even the grandest endeavors. Yet the questions persist. Why were they carved in such isolation, towering over a remote valley rather than a populous city? What other monuments might lie hidden in surrounding cliffs, undiscovered or lost to history? Could there have been a network of similar figures across the region, forming an even more extensive spiritual landscape, now erased by centuries of natural and human forces? Standing in the Bamyan Valley today, among the empty niches and the scattered remnants of carvings, one cannot help but feel a profound tension between presence and absence. The cliffs retain an echo of what was once monumental, yet the scale, skill, and intention of the original creators are impossible to grasp fully. The statues are gone, but their gaze, their silence, and their monumental ambition linger, inviting contemplation. Perhaps the true mystery of the Bamyan giants is not only how they were made, but why they were made in the first place. What motivated human hands to shape rock into towering forms, to labor for decades in isolation, creating figures meant to endure across centuries, only to be vulnerable to the fragility of history? As the wind sweeps through the valley, carrying with it the whispers of past pilgrims and artisans, the answer remains out of reach. The statues may have fallen, but their presence continues to haunt the cliffs, a silent invitation to reflect on the intersection of devotion, artistry, and the unknowable. What else might the cliffs of Bamyan conceal? Fragments of forgotten monasteries, lost murals, or traces of rituals we can no longer reconstruct. The valley holds its secrets close, allowing us only glimpses, challenging us to imagine a past both vast and intimate, monumental and ephemeral. And as the sun dips behind the Hindu Kush mountains, casting long shadows across the empty niches, one is left with a singular, unanswerable question. In the grand sweep of history, what stories have yet to be told, what monuments have yet to be revealed, and what mysteries remain, silently carved in stone? From the soaring cliffs of Bamyan and the silent witnesses of the Plain of Giants, we return to Egypt, where the arid sands and timeless monuments continue to hold secrets beneath their sun-baked surfaces. Here, at the vast necropolis of Saqqara, lies a tomb that has captivated archaeologists and historians for over a century, the tomb of Mereruka. Carved into the limestone plateau southwest of Memphis, the tomb appears at first modest against the endless desert, yet once inside, the scale and complexity unfold astonishingly. The corridors stretch and branch, forming a labyrinth of chambers, halls, and chapels, each adorned with reliefs and carvings that preserve moments of ancient life with startling clarity. Sunlight, filtered through narrow slits, illuminates walls decorated with scenes of daily activity, ceremonial rituals, and symbolic motifs of the Old Kingdom. The colors, though faded, still hold warmth, reds, ochres, and blues that speak across millennia. Mereruka himself was a man of extraordinary power, vizier under Pharaoh Teti during Egypt's 6th dynasty. His tomb reflects not only his status, but his role as a conduit between the mortal and the divine. Here, artisans captured him supervising craftsmen, partaking in banquets, and performing ritual acts. Scenes of agricultural labor and livestock abound. Yet the carvings are far more than decorative. They are meant to preserve essence, to maintain life and influence for eternity. The tomb's architecture is equally remarkable. Covering some 3,000 square meters, it is one of the largest non-royal tombs of the Old Kingdom. Each chamber is meticulously proportioned, designed to guide the visitor, or the spirit, through a journey of life, death, and transcendence. Reliefs line almost every surface, depicting Mereruka in every conceivable role: statesman, priest, family patriarch. Even the smallest alcoves contain detailed narratives, subtle symbols, and motifs repeated in enigmatic sequences. Yet the deeper one explores, the more questions arise. Why did Mereruka, a single vizier, require a tomb of such monumental scale? Was it merely a reflection of wealth and status, or did the dimensions, orientations, and internal design hold deeper symbolic meaning, now partially lost to time? Archaeologists have noted that certain chambers are aligned in unusual ways, their angles slightly off from cardinal points, deliberate or incidental. And what of the hidden niches and miniature corridors that seem to lead nowhere, their purpose unresolved? Then there is the artistry itself. The reliefs are precise, almost impossibly so for the tools of the time. Chisels of copper and stone, combined with pigments from minerals, produced images that survive for more than 4,000 years. Some scholars suggest that subtle conventions in proportion and perspective were intended to convey spiritual principles, ways of seeing the world that the modern eye struggles to interpret. Could the seeming repetition of motifs, figures, and gestures encode messages meant only for the initiated? Even more intriguing is the depiction of Mereruka's household, animals, and servants. Scenes of routine life, at first glance straightforward, have raised questions about symbolic meaning. Why, for instance, are certain animals disproportionately represented or positioned in ways that defy naturalistic logic? Could these exaggerations indicate spiritual significance, cosmic correspondence, or roles in ritual life beyond mere decoration? Over centuries, the tomb has revealed fragments of mystery. Burial shafts, once assumed empty, sometimes contain evidence of additional interments or artifacts, suggesting that the tomb may have had functions beyond what we currently understand. Was it solely a personal monument, or did it serve a broader religious or administrative purpose, perhaps even housing objects of ritual power or knowledge? Speculative theories, though unverified, have grown around the tomb's scale and complexity. Some suggest that hidden chambers might remain undiscovered, their entrances cleverly concealed within the labyrinthine corridors. Others posit that the tomb's alignment with surrounding monuments, pyramids, temples, and mastabas, may have encoded astronomical or calendrical information, perhaps a map of stars, seasons, or sacred geography. Could Mereruka have intended his tomb to function as a nexus of spiritual and temporal order, a place where cosmic patterns converged with earthly governance? Walking through the tomb of Mereruka today, it is impossible not to feel the weight of its presence. The silence is profound, interrupted only by the echo of footsteps or the shifting desert wind outside. Light and shadow play across the carved walls, bringing to life figures frozen in eternal gesture, expressions captured in stone with a subtle vitality that defies the ages. The tomb embodies both permanence and enigma, a dialogue between the living, the dead, and the divine. And yet, for all its splendor and documentation, the tomb keeps its secrets. What might we uncover if the hidden chambers are fully explored? Are there inscriptions, objects, or features that could reveal dimensions of Old Kingdom life, religion, or statecraft we have not yet imagined? Could the tomb itself be a kind of coded archive, a repository of knowledge intended for those with eyes to see and minds to understand? Mereruka's tomb is a bridge across time, inviting contemplation not only of its creator, but of the civilization that shaped it. It reminds us that human ambition, devotion, and artistry often reach beyond mere survival or record. They aspire to something lasting, something transcendent. As the last shafts of sunlight fade across the painted walls, the shadows deepen, and the silent chambers seem to breathe with history. We leave the tomb with no certainty, only reflection. What else lies hidden within the vast complex of Saqqara, waiting to be revealed? And what might the meticulous design and imagery of Mereruka's resting place teach us about the intentions, beliefs, and mysteries of a civilization that continues to fascinate and confound millennia later? The tomb of Mereruka remains, in every sense, a monument to both human achievement and enduring enigma, a place where the past speaks softly yet insistently, inviting all who enter to question, wonder, and seek. From the sun-baked tombs and corridors of Saqqara, we leave the desert behind and journey across continents, over oceans, and into the rugged Andean mountains of Peru. Here, amidst mist-shrouded peaks and deep river valleys, lies one of the most enigmatic and breathtaking sights in human history, Machu Picchu. Perched nearly 2,430 meters above sea level, this ancient city seems to emerge naturally from the mountain itself. Terraces cascade down the slopes like giant steps, blending seamlessly with the jagged cliffs and verdant valleys. The stone structures, built from massive blocks perfectly fitted together without mortar, gleam in the sunlight after morning mist drifts away. From a distance, Machu Picchu appears as a vision suspended between earth and sky, a place that seems almost too deliberate, too perfect, to be entirely human. Archaeologists generally agree that Machu Picchu was constructed in the mid-15th century by the Inca Emperor Pachacuti. Its purpose remains debated. Some suggest it served as a royal estate, a retreat for rulers, and a ceremonial center. Others see evidence of astronomical observation, agricultural innovation, or spiritual pilgrimage. The city contains over 200 structures, including temples, residences, terraces, and sacred plazas, each intricately aligned, carefully positioned, and meticulously constructed. Yet, despite extensive study, Machu Picchu continues to resist complete understanding. How did the Incas transport stones weighing multiple tons up steep mountain slopes, carving them so precisely that the joints fit without mortar? Modern engineers and archaeologists alike marvel at the accuracy and durability, noting that even earthquakes, which regularly shake the region, have caused minimal damage. Was this ingenuity purely practical, or did it reflect a deeper understanding of the earth, gravity, and energy? The layout itself is steeped in intrigue. Temples and plazas are often oriented toward the sun, mountains, or river valleys. Some researchers suggest that Machu Picchu functioned as a ritual observatory, marking solstices and equinoxes, its terraces and stones acting as tools to measure time, seasons, and celestial movements. Could the sacred geography have encoded knowledge of astronomy, climate, or agriculture in ways we have yet to fully decipher? Equally mysterious are the agricultural terraces, cascading down the mountain in perfect symmetry. They are far more than hillside farming. Some speculate they were designed to manage water, stabilize slopes, and create microclimates. Yet there is a sense of artistry and purpose that surpasses mere utility. Could these terraces have held symbolic meaning as well, forming a connection between the city's inhabitants and the sacred mountains that surround them? Machu Picchu is also rich with unexplained features. The Intihuatana stone, a carved rock in the main plaza, appears to function as both a ritual object and a sophisticated solar instrument. Scholars have noted that at certain times of the year, its shadow aligns precisely with the sun, yet the full scope of its purpose remains unclear. Was it purely ceremonial, or did it serve as a calendar, a celestial marker, or a focal point for spiritual energy? Other structures, such as the Temple of the Sun and the Room of the Three Windows, contain precise architectural anomalies, curved walls, trapezoidal doors, and niches that defy straightforward explanation. Some researchers suggest these features amplified sound or light, while others propose symbolic or astronomical significance. The sheer intentionality of these constructions hints at knowledge that extended far beyond practical engineering. The city's discovery by Hiram Bingham in 1911 opened a window into the Inca world, yet it left as many questions as it answered. Why was Machu Picchu abandoned so suddenly in the 16th century, leaving no signs of siege, fire, or violent destruction? How did the Inca, without written language, encode knowledge, governance, and spiritual beliefs so intricately into the landscape? And how did they achieve such harmony with the terrain, aligning construction to mountains, rivers, and sunlight in a way that modern urban planning rarely matches. Speculative theories abound. Some suggest Machu Picchu was an elite spiritual retreat, a center for meditation and initiation. Others propose it functioned as a hidden repository of knowledge, a sacred place where cosmology, mathematics, and ritual converged. Fringe ideas even hint at lost technologies, advanced surveying methods, or extraterrestrial guidance. But regardless of their merit, these theories underscore the city's enduring aura of mystery. Walking among the terraces and stone pathways today, one cannot help but feel a sense of reverence. The city, though abandoned for centuries, is alive in a quiet way. The mountains embrace it, clouds drift through its plazas, and sunlight animates the stone in ever-changing patterns. It is a place where human ambition, ingenuity, and spirituality converge, yet much remains hidden in plain sight. Could there be undiscovered structures beneath the terraces or within the mountains themselves? Might we one day uncover tools, inscriptions, or artifacts that reveal more about the daily lives, rituals, or knowledge of those who built this city? And perhaps most intriguingly, what was the ultimate purpose of Machu Picchu? A refuge, a temple, a laboratory of the mind and spirit, or something even greater, a bridge between humanity and the cosmos? As the Andean sun sets behind towering peaks, casting long shadows across the terraces, the city seems suspended between the earthly and the divine. Its silence is profound, yet it speaks in subtle ways, through the precision of stone, the alignment of structures, and the rhythm of terraces cascading into the valley below. Machu Picchu remains a testament to human achievement, a city of stone and sky whose full meaning is still just beyond reach. It invites us to ponder not only the skill and vision of the Inca, but also the enduring mysteries of human ambition, devotion, and the search for understanding in a world that often conceals as much as it reveals. What secrets still lie hidden among its terraces, in the shadows of its temples, or beneath its foundations? And what lessons might this city, perched high above the Urubamba River, hold for those willing to look closely, listen carefully, and question what we think we know about the past? The mountains keep their silence, yet Machu Picchu's presence endures, an eternal enigma, suspended between earth and sky, waiting for discovery, understanding, and awe. From the soaring Andes and the misted terraces of Machu Picchu, we move northward, across continents and climates, to a landscape both stark and enigmatic. The arid cliffs and caves lining the western shore of the Dead Sea. Here, amidst the sun-bleached rocks and deep canyons of the Judean desert, a discovery was made that would forever change our understanding of ancient history. The Dead Sea Scrolls. The scrolls were first unearthed in 1947, hidden for centuries in remote caves near Qumran. At first, they appeared to be nothing more than jars of clay, dust-covered, cracked, and unassuming. But within them lay fragments of ancient texts, some nearly 2,000 years old. These scrolls, fragile and delicate, contained writings that ranged from biblical manuscripts to previously unknown religious treatises, hymns, and sectarian rules, offering a glimpse into the thoughts, beliefs, and practices of a world long vanished. Holding a scroll, even a fragment, is an intimate encounter with the past. The parchment is brittle, the ink faded, yet the words endure. Letters written with painstaking care curve along the pages, forming scripts that connect us directly to a people whose culture, faith, and intellect continue to challenge our assumptions. Scholars have meticulously reconstructed the texts, but even now the full meaning of some writings remains debated. Mainstream research suggests that the scrolls were created and preserved by a sect of Jewish ascetics, possibly the Essenes, who inhabited the region between the 3rd century BCE and the 1st century CE. They likely hid the scrolls to protect them from invasion and destruction, perhaps during the Roman conquest. Many texts correspond to books of the Hebrew Bible, yet others are unique: commentaries, apocalyptic visions, and legal codices that reveal variations, omissions, and interpretations unknown elsewhere. Yet for all the historical context, questions multiply. Why were so many texts concealed in caves, often in precarious locations? What dictated which writings were preserved and which were left to vanish? Some scrolls are complete, others fragmented into countless pieces, making reconstruction a painstaking process. Could there be caves still undiscovered, holding texts that might rewrite portions of history, theology, or language? Even more perplexing is the nature of certain scrolls. Some contain passages that suggest esoteric knowledge, astronomical calculations, calendrical systems, or cryptic prophecies. Others depict visions of heavenly beings and cosmological hierarchies that defy straightforward interpretation. Were these meant as metaphorical teachings, mystical exercises, or records of experiences we can scarcely imagine? The content challenges the boundary between history, faith, and mystery. The scrolls also present physical enigmas. Many were written on parchment, some on copper, and others on papyrus, each material chosen with intention. The inks vary, some made from carbon, others from mineral pigments. Analysis of the scrolls reveals techniques of preparation and preservation that seem astonishingly advanced for the time. How did these communities achieve such durability? And why do some scrolls remain almost perfectly intact, while others disintegrate despite similar conditions? The caves themselves add another layer of intrigue. Nestled in cliffs accessible only through narrow passages, they seem deliberately hidden, yet positioned near a water source and fertile valleys. Were these caves selected solely for protection, or might they have held ritual significance? Some researchers propose that the location of the scrolls, in shadowed chambers above desert plains, may have been as symbolic as it was practical, a liminal space where sacred knowledge could exist apart from the ordinary world. Speculative theories abound. Some suggest the scrolls contain lost texts of immense spiritual importance, writings suppressed or hidden due to their perceived power. Others hint at advanced knowledge encoded within the texts, mathematical, astronomical, or even prophetic information, now veiled in metaphor and symbolism. Fringe ideas occasionally propose connections to unknown civilizations, mysterious authors, or lost wisdom, but regardless of interpretation, the scroll's aura of enigma persists. Perhaps the most striking aspect of the Dead Sea Scrolls is their intimacy with human experience. They depict communities wrestling with faith, law, morality, and survival. They record debates, reflections, and aspirations that resonate across millennia. And yet, they also hold deliberate ambiguity, gaps in the texts, fragmented passages, and obscure references that invite endless interpretation. What knowledge was meant to endure, and what was lost intentionally or accidentally? Standing at the mouth of a Qumran cave today, looking over the arid Dead Sea and the jagged cliffs, it is easy to sense the passage of time layered upon itself. The wind stirs dust across the ledges where jars once sat, carrying echoes of voices long silenced. The desert holds its secrets tightly, leaving us with glimpses rather than full revelation. Could other caves, still hidden in the harsh terrain, contain scrolls or artifacts yet unknown? Might we one day uncover texts that shift our understanding of religion, history, or human knowledge? And what of the mysteries embedded within the scrolls themselves, the interpretations, prophecies, and symbolic codes that continue to confound scholars and believers alike? The Dead Sea Scrolls are more than ancient manuscripts. They are a bridge to a vanished world, a connection to the people who lived, prayed, and thought deeply along these cliffs. They remind us that the past is never fully captured, that knowledge can survive in fragments, and that the deserts of the world still guard secrets beyond our reach. And so, as the sun sets over the desert plain, casting long shadows across the cliffs and shimmering waters of the Dead Sea, one cannot help but wonder, what else remains hidden in these caves, waiting to whisper its story to those patient and perceptive enough to listen? The scrolls endure, fragile yet defiant, offering tantalizing glimpses of human thought and history, and challenging us across the centuries to seek, question, and imagine what truths might still be buried, waiting for the light. From the arid cliffs of the Judean desert and the echoes of the Dead Sea Scrolls, we now turn our gaze across the vast Pacific Ocean to an island both isolated and extraordinary. Rapa Nui, known to the world as Easter Island. Here, in the shadow of extinct volcanoes and atop wind-swept plains, lies one of the most enigmatic cultural artifacts ever discovered, the Rongorongo script. The first glimpse of Rapa Nui evokes awe, rolling volcanic slopes punctuated by the colossal stone heads, or moai, staring silently toward the horizon. But beyond the moai, tucked within wooden tablets, ceremonial staffs, and ritual objects, lie lines of delicate, curving glyphs, the Rongorongo symbols. These markings, carved with painstaking care into surfaces of wood that have survived centuries of humidity, salt, and decay, represent a written language that has yet to be deciphered. Scholars generally agree that Rongorongo emerged sometime in the late 18th century, although its origins may reach further back, possibly influenced by pre-contact Polynesian practices. The glyphs are elegant, repetitive, and often symmetrical, depicting stylized humans, animals, plants, and geometric patterns. They flow in continuous lines, often read in the so-called reverse boustrophodon method, where text alternates direction line by line, a feature unique in the known corpus of world scripts. Despite extensive study, the script remains undeciphered. Mainstream theory suggests that it may have recorded genealogies, rituals, or oral traditions of the Rapa Nui people, essentially preserving the knowledge and spiritual practice of the island's inhabitants. Yet no Rosetta Stone exists for Rongorongo, and no living memory of its use survives. Every tablet, every carved staff, becomes both an artifact and a riddle, offering hints while withholding comprehension. The method and medium of writing itself raise questions. Wooden tablets are susceptible to decay in a tropical maritime environment, yet a handful survived, often through fortuitous preservation in dry shelters. The precision of the carvings, lines incised deeply and evenly, glyphs carefully proportioned, suggests a sophisticated system of notation. Could the creators have encoded more than genealogy or ritual? Might astronomical observations, calendrical calculations, or spiritual cosmology also be inscribed within these delicate lines? Patterns in the glyphs hint at repetition, structure, and possibly syntax, yet no universally accepted decoding has emerged. Some sequences appear mnemonic, perhaps aiding in the recitation of chants or myths. Others may indicate ownership, ceremonial significance, or even record historical events. Could Rongorongo have been a system both practical and sacred, a convergence of communication and ritual? The script's context deepens the mystery. The Rapa Nui civilization, isolated in the Pacific for centuries, developed a unique culture with monumental architecture, complex social systems, and intricate oral traditions. The moai, built and transported across rugged terrain, suggest an advanced understanding of engineering, resource management, and communal labor. Within this environment, Rongorongo emerges as a silent testament to intellectual achievement. But why, and how, did a written system develop on such an isolated island? Most of Polynesia relied on oral tradition, Yet here appears a sophisticated visual code suggesting that the Rapa Nui were driven by a specific need to record or preserve information. Speculation has grown around the purpose and origin of Rongorongo. Some researchers propose that it encoded sacred knowledge, instructions for ceremonies, or genealogical records essential for leadership and inheritance. Others hint at more enigmatic possibilities: astronomical or calendrical data embedded in the glyphs, knowledge of natural cycles crucial for agriculture, or even encoded spiritual teachings meant to survive generations. Fringe theories, while often controversial, reflect the depth of fascination with a script that refuses to yield its secrets. Equally intriguing is the relationship between Rongorongo and the moai. Both are monumental in ambition, one in stone, one in script. Was the writing intended to complement, explain, or sanctify the statues? Could the glyphs have been used to record rituals associated with the moai, chants for construction ceremonies, or histories of clans responsible for their erection? The intersection of script, ritual, and monumental art raises questions that remain unanswered, tantalizing scholars and observers alike. Preservation and discovery add another layer to the enigma. European contact with Rapa Nui in the 18th century led to depopulation, cultural disruption, and loss of oral knowledge. Many tablets were destroyed, used for fuel, or lost to time. What proportion of the original corpus remains undiscovered, still hidden in caves, sacred sites, or private collections? Could entire narratives, histories, or systems of knowledge be lost forever, leaving us only fragments to puzzle over? Walking across Rapa Nui today, among the moai and volcanic slopes, one senses the weight of history and isolation. The wind carries the faint scent of the sea and the whispers of generations long gone. Each Rongorongo tablet becomes a bridge to a past that is at once intimate and distant, a record of human ingenuity, devotion, and the drive to preserve knowledge against the impermanence of time. And yet, the script resists understanding. For all our modern tools, photography, digital reconstruction, computational linguistics, Rongorongo remains a cipher, a voice from the past that speaks in gestures, patterns, and symbols rather than words we can yet comprehend. What might the glyphs reveal if fully deciphered? Could they tell the story of Rapa Nui's society, the rituals that bound the community together, or even the ecological knowledge that sustained an island civilization? Or do they preserve mysteries we cannot fully interpret, insights meant only for the eyes of the initiated, a record of a culture both brilliant and enigmatic? Rongorongo endures as both artifact and puzzle. Each tablet, each carefully carved glyph, is a silent messenger from an isolated civilization, inviting us to pause, observe, and question. It reminds us that human ingenuity can flourish even in the most remote corners of the world, and that some mysteries, like the island itself, are designed to endure, defying easy explanation. And as the Pacific winds sweep across the volcanic slopes, rustling the grasses and casting long shadows from the moai, one cannot help but wonder how much remains hidden, both in symbols carved in wood and in the minds of those who once created them. What stories, knowledge, or wisdom have yet to surface from the isolation of Rapa Nui, waiting to be discovered by those willing to listen, observe, and imagine? The Rongorongo script remains an enduring enigma, a whispered legacy from a civilization at the edge of the world, daring us to decipher its secrets and glimpse the minds of those who lived and dreamed on this distant island. From the wind-swept volcanic slopes of Rapa Nui, where the Rongorongo script whispers secrets we cannot yet decipher, our journey returns to the rugged and mist-laden highlands of Peru. Here, deep within the cloud forests, lies a series of tombs as enigmatic as they are inaccessible. The Chachapoya cloud burial caverns, sometimes called the sarcophagi of the clouds. The landscape itself is mesmerizing. steep cliffs draped in verdant greenery, thick with moss, ferns, and lianas, where clouds weave between peaks and valleys, shrouding the forest in a perpetual veil of mist. Carved into the cliffs are cavities, niches, and caverns, many of them perched on ledges so narrow that approaching them seems perilous. Within these natural alcoves rest the sarcophagi of the Chachapoya people, elaborate stone coffins shaped like human figures or trapezoidal boxes, some adorned with geometric patterns or anthropomorphic faces. The placement alone is astonishing. Many rest hundreds of meters above the valley floor, suggesting remarkable ingenuity and daring in their construction. The Chachapoya, often called the warriors of the clouds, thrived between roughly 900 CE and the Spanish conquest in the 16th century. They were skilled builders, architects of cliffside fortresses like Cuelap, and masters of adapting to a challenging, mountainous environment. The cloud burial caverns reflect both their technical skill and their complex spiritual beliefs, intertwining the physical and metaphysical worlds in ways we are only beginning to comprehend. Inside the caverns, human remains are often found in crouched positions within the sarcophagi, sometimes accompanied by pottery, textiles, or personal artifacts. The arrangement suggests a deeply ritualistic approach to death, one in which the placement of the deceased, the orientation of the coffin, and the accompanying objects all held symbolic meaning. Could these elevated tombs have been intended to bring the dead closer to the heavens, or to separate them from the living world, both literally and spiritually? Mainstream interpretations suggest practical reasons as well: protection from scavengers, environmental preservation, and territorial marking. Yet the precision required to transport massive stones, erect sarcophagi on vertical cliff faces, and carve them with care points to intentions beyond mere pragmatism. Why risk such labor and danger for burial sites? Could the location of each cavern, each niche, have aligned with sacred geography, celestial events, or spiritual pathways now lost to memory? The geometric designs and anthropomorphic features carved into some sarcophagi add layers of mystery. Are these decorative, symbolic, or functional markers? Some scholars argue they encoded lineage, status, or clan identity. Others speculate they were ritualistic, serving as guardians of the deceased or conduits between the living and the spirit world. How much of their meaning has been obscured by time, decay, and the arrival of foreign powers that disrupted Chachapoya society? The very inaccessibility of the caverns compounds their mystique. Dense vegetation and precipitous cliffs have left many tombs untouched by modern explorers, creating pockets of history frozen in isolation. Could there be entire necropolises hidden within the folds of the mountains, undiscovered, their secrets intact? What might additional discoveries reveal about Chachapoya cosmology, their social organization, or their funerary rituals? The Chachapoya culture itself remains enigmatic. Unlike the Inca, whose cities, roads, and records survive in abundance, much of what we know about the Chachapoya comes from archaeology, oral histories recorded centuries later, and the remains of their architecture. The cloud burial caverns hint at beliefs that connected mortality, landscape, and the sacred, yet their precise cosmology, mythology, and reasoning remain tantalizingly out of reach. Could these cliffside tombs reflect a worldview where the mountains, sky, and human spirit are inseparably linked? Speculative theories, while unverified, further emphasize the allure of these sites. Some propose that the sarcophagi were positioned to observe celestial phenomena, solstices, equinoxes, or star alignments, acting as both tombs and observatories. Others suggest that the Chachapoya may have believed these elevated burials allowed the spirits to interact with cosmic forces or maintain influence over the living. And yet, despite decades of study, we are left with only fragments, bones, stones, and carved patterns, speaking in silence of intentions and meanings now lost. Even the construction techniques remain a puzzle. How did the Chachapoya maneuver large stones across cliffs, position them securely on ledges, and shape them with precision using tools that seem rudimentary compared to modern standards? The risk alone suggests that the act of burial was as much a statement of devotion, skill, and cultural identity as it was a practical measure. Walking through these cloud forests, approaching a cliffside sarcophagus, it is impossible not to feel the intersection of nature, mortality, and ingenuity. The fog shifts continuously, wrapping the tombs in secrecy, as if the mountains themselves guard the past. Every sarcophagus, every carved detail, speaks of a culture intimately attuned to its environment, its spiritual beliefs, and the impermanence of life. Yet, despite our knowledge of the Chachapoya, the cloud burial caverns remain unresolved mysteries. How many tombs remain hidden, unreachable without perilous climbing? What might they reveal about Chachapoya society, their rituals, or their understanding of death and the cosmos? And perhaps most compellingly, what beliefs, stories, or wisdom were encoded in the placement, orientation, and design of these cliffside tombs, messages intended to endure beyond memory, yet still undeciphered by the living? The cloud burial caverns endure, silent and steadfast, perched above the valleys and wrapped in mist. They are reminders that human ingenuity, devotion, and spirituality often take forms that defy simple explanation. And as the wind moves through the cloud forest, echoing off the cliffs and brushing against the stone sarcophagi, one is left with a singular thought. How much of the Chachapoya's world, hidden within these inaccessible heights, remains waiting for discovery, understanding, and awe? These tombs, suspended between earth and sky, challenge our perception of what is possible, inviting us to question, to explore, and to wonder at the enduring mysteries of a people who once called the clouds their sacred home. From the misty heights of the Chachapoya cloud forests, where sarcophagi cling to cliffs like silent sentinels, we descend to the arid coastal valleys of southern Peru. Here, in the desert region surrounding the town of Ica, lie small, unassuming stones that carry a peculiar and unsettling fascination. The Ica stones, engraved with motifs that provoke curiosity, debate, and wonder. At first glance, the stones appear ordinary, rounded, smooth, shaped by erosion, and no larger than a hand. But upon closer inspection, one notices intricate carvings etched into their surfaces. Some depict scenes of animals long extinct, such as dinosaurs. Others illustrate humans engaging in advanced surgeries, astronomical observations, or mysterious technological apparatuses that seem far beyond the supposed knowledge of ancient Andean peoples. The detail is astonishing, each figure meticulously rendered, with proportions, expressions, and actions captured as though observing reality firsthand. The stones were first brought to wider attention in the 1960s, collected from local farmers' fields. Many were said to have been found over generations, buried or hidden among desert sands. The mainstream archaeological perspective has generally been skeptical, often attributing the engravings to modern fabrication or hoax. Indeed, some stones may have been altered or even created for tourists, but others exhibit signs of age, patina, and wear consistent with long-term exposure, leaving uncertainty about their origins. What makes the Ica stones so compelling is the seeming complexity of their imagery. Scenes depict surgical procedures, including trepanation and internal organ surgery, with astonishing anatomical accuracy. There are depictions of telescopes, microscopes, maps of the stars, and human interaction with creatures that, according to conventional science, should never have coexisted with humans. How were such observations possible? Were these depictions purely symbolic, visionary, or allegorical? Or do they hint at knowledge, lost to history, that challenges our understanding of human development? The stone's physical characteristics invite further contemplation. Engraved in a medium of hard stone using tools that would have left discernible marks, the carvings are precise. The depth, line quality, and repeated patterns suggest deliberate craftsmanship over extended periods. Some researchers note that the stones may have been used as teaching tools or ritual objects, conveying knowledge visually in a society without written language. Could the stones represent a record-keeping system, a memory of the past, or perhaps an attempt to preserve wisdom beyond mere oral tradition? The context of the region adds another layer to the mystery. Southern Peru is rich in pre-Columbian history, home to ancient civilizations such as the Nazca and Paracas cultures, known for geoglyphs, pottery, and textiles of extraordinary sophistication. Might the Ica stones represent an extension of this intellectual and artistic tradition, now lost to the desert sands? Or do they point to influences and knowledge systems not yet recognized by conventional archaeology? Some of the more controversial stones depict humans interacting with dinosaurs, wielding tools and observing creatures in ways that seem impossible within the established timeline of human prehistory, while mainstream scientists reject the literal interpretation, suggesting anachronistic imagination or modern forgery. The very existence of these motifs compels reflection. How did such imagery enter the local cultural consciousness? Were the carvings inspired by fossil discoveries, oral traditions, or unknown sources of knowledge? The stones also evoke questions about scale, purpose, and preservation. Thousands of engraved stones are reported to exist, yet only a fraction have been catalogued or studied in detail. Could there be undiscovered hoards buried beneath the sands, waiting to reveal a broader narrative of ancient knowledge, ritual, or storytelling? And what might the patterns of imagery tell us about the worldview, cosmology, and technological understanding of the people who created them, or claimed to create them? Even the manner of distribution raises curiosity. The stones are scattered, many found near ancient burial sites, ceremonial centers, or cultivated terraces. Does their placement suggest ritual significance, a didactic function, or a record of history, myth, and memory intertwined? Were they meant to be seen by the living, or hidden as offerings to the dead, the landscape, or unseen forces? Walking across the dry valleys near Ica, one cannot help but feel the same sense of awe that the stones themselves evoke. The desert stretches endlessly, sunlight glinting off smooth rocks, wind stirring fine sand, and the horizon framing the Andes in the distance. Amid this vast emptiness, the engraved stones seem to whisper, offering glimpses of lives, knowledge, and mysteries that remain tantalizingly out of reach. And yet, despite extensive study, the stones retain their enigma. Some may indeed be modern forgeries, while others may represent ancient cultural expression whose origin, purpose, and meaning we have yet to grasp. How much of the Ica stones' story is lost, buried under centuries of sand, human skepticism, and time itself? Could these stones represent a coded history of lost civilizations, advanced knowledge, or symbolic traditions we have yet to understand? Might the engravings reflect stories passed down through generations, memories preserved visually rather than in written words, or perhaps a glimpse into an entirely unknown chapter of human history? The Ica stones endure as objects of fascination, bridging skepticism and wonder, tangible yet elusive, challenging our assumptions of what ancient people knew, believed, and recorded. They invite contemplation, careful observation, and a willingness to confront uncertainty. As the desert wind sweeps across the arid valley, lifting grains of sand over fields where farmers have found and collected the stones, one is left with a profound question. How many of these carved messages remain hidden beneath the earth, waiting to illuminate or further complicate our understanding of humanity's past? The Ica stones, with their intricate motifs and unresolved origins, continue to whisper across time, a testament to curiosity, craftsmanship, and the enduring enigma of knowledge lost, hidden, or perhaps never fully comprehended. From the arid deserts of Ica and the engraved stones that have perplexed scholars for decades, we now turn eastward across the vast Pacific Ocean toward the subtropical waters surrounding the southernmost islands of Japan. Off the coast of Yonaguni, beneath the clear turquoise waves, lies a series of submerged formations that have sparked debate, wonder, and controversy: the Yonaguni underwater structures. At first glance, the formations appear to be nothing more than natural rock, sculpted over millennia by currents, tectonic pressure, and erosion. Yet, as divers approach, the features take on a distinctly architectural character. Stepped terraces, angular edges, flat surfaces, and enormous pillars that rise from the sea floor like the foundations of a long-lost city. The scale is staggering. Some terraces stretch tens of meters in length. Massive monolithic blocks appear precisely aligned, forming what could be interpreted as walls, roads, or plazas. Sunlight filtering through the water casts shifting shadows, revealing the symmetry and geometry of the submerged landscape. The structures were first brought to the attention of the wider world in the 1980s, when marine researcher Masaaki Kimura documented and mapped the site. Mainstream geologists caution that the formations could be the product of natural tectonic activity, fracturing, and erosion, noting the volcanic and sedimentary composition of the region. Yet even those skeptical of artificiality acknowledge the extraordinary precision of the formations. Straight edges, right angles, and parallel terraces occur at scales rarely produced by natural processes alone. How did these patterns come to be, and is there more to their formation than geology can explain? The mystery deepens when considering the context. The site lies roughly 5 to 8 meters below sea level, though estimates suggest it may have been above water up to 10,000 years ago, during the tail end of the last ice age. If the terraces and blocks are indeed man-made, could they represent evidence of a civilization predating known history? One whose memory was swallowed by rising seas? Might these structures have been ceremonial platforms, settlements, or defensive works? And if so, how advanced were the people who created them? Examining the formations underwater, divers note features resembling roads, staircases, and even a large triangular formation often referred to as a pyramid by enthusiasts. Some blocks appear deliberately shaped to interlock, as if engineered to withstand both time and tides. Could this be the remnants of a sunken city, or is it an extraordinary case of geological coincidence? Perhaps it is both. A landscape shaped by natural forces, subsequently modified by human hands, now frozen beneath the waves. Adding to the enigma are scattered carvings and formations resembling faces, pillars, or abstract symbols. Are these purely natural anomalies, or do they hint at ritualistic or symbolic practices? Comparisons to megalithic structures elsewhere in the world, pyramids, step terraces, or ceremonial plazas, invite speculation about cross-cultural architectural principles, or even the existence of unknown, advanced knowledge in prehistory. The site also raises questions about the resilience and ingenuity of ancient peoples. Constructing or modifying structures of this scale and placing them in areas now submerged would have required an intimate understanding of materials, geometry, and perhaps even water management. Did rising sea levels erase an entire chapter of human history, leaving only echoes preserved underwater? Could similar submerged sites exist elsewhere, waiting to be revealed? Speculative theories abound. Some suggest the Yonaguni structures are remnants of lost civilizations, possibly connected to global myths of sunken continents such as Mu or Atlantis. Others propose that the formations were sacred ceremonial sites, designed to align with astronomical or tidal cycles. More fringe hypotheses even suggest knowledge of advanced engineering or surveying far earlier than traditionally believed. While none of these claims are verified, the very persistence of the mystery underscores the site's uncanny allure. Even scientific analysis cannot fully resolve the ambiguity. Geological surveys show fractures consistent with tectonic movement, yet the pattern, scale, and regularity of terraces and flat surfaces defy complete explanation. Some terraces appear unnaturally smooth, corners form near-perfect right angles, and the alignment of certain blocks suggests intentional design. How do we reconcile these features with our understanding of natural processes? Is the answer purely in geology, or is there an imprint of human intention yet to be fully recognized? Exploring Yonaguni today is both exhilarating and humbling. Divers navigate corridors and terraces with flashlights cutting through the murky depths, their movements casting shadows that animate the submerged landscape. The site feels alive, a silent witness to epochs long past, a threshold between human ambition and nature's vast, patient forces. Every dive reveals new angles, hidden crevices, or peculiar formations, yet the full extent of the site remains uncertain, veiled by the sea. And yet, for all the study, the site refuses definitive interpretation. How many terraces remain unmapped? Are there artifacts or tools hidden beneath sediment layers that could clarify the story? Could the structures reveal evidence of prehistoric engineering, social organization, or ceremonial practice currently lost to the tides? Or are we observing a rare convergence of natural forces that coincidentally mimic human architecture, fooling the eye and challenging our assumptions? The Yonaguni underwater structures endure, submerged and silent, a liminal space between land and sea, history and speculation. They invite reflection on the fragility of human achievement, the inexorable changes of climate and geology, and the tantalizing possibility that we have yet to uncover the full scope of human ingenuity. As currents swirl over terraces and monoliths, and sunlight fractures through the water in shifting patterns, one cannot help but wonder, what else lies hidden beneath the waves, waiting to challenge what we think we know about ancient civilizations? Could these submerged formations be the keys to a forgotten chapter of human history? Or are they nature's extraordinary illusions, echoing the unknowable creativity of the earth itself? The Yonaguni structures remain a profound enigma, their mysteries preserved beneath the sea, beckoning us to explore, question, and imagine the depths of time and human possibility. From the submerged terraces of Yonaguni and the silent mysteries beneath the Pacific, our journey moves to the remote mountains of China's Qinghai province, where the landscape is rugged, desolate, and strikingly beautiful. Here, in the arid expanses surrounding Mount Baigong, lie one of the most perplexing and controversial archaeological enigmas of the modern world, the Baigong Pipes. The first impression is deceptive. Nestled on the slopes of the mountain, near the edge of a saline lake, one encounters a series of rust-colored cylindrical formations protruding from rocks and buried within soil. At first glance, they appear almost natural, mineralized fossils, iron deposits, or the result of geological forces over millennia. But closer inspection reveals something far more unusual. Hollow tubes of varying diameters, some arranged in apparent patterns, forming clusters and networks that seem deliberately organized. Some pipes extend deep into the mountainside. Others stretch toward the water, their openings aligned with uncanny regularity. These formations were first brought to public attention in the 1990s. Locals and researchers alike noticed the hollow tubes embedded in the rock and within nearby caves, some of which extended over 10 meters in length. The composition of the pipes is equally enigmatic. Tests reveal high concentrations of iron and silicon, leading some to suggest they are the product of natural mineralization. Yet, the near-perfect cylindrical shape, uniform diameters, and the apparent integration into the surrounding rock challenge conventional geological explanations. How could natural processes alone produce such uniformity, both in form and placement? Theories abound. Mainstream science tends toward explanations rooted in natural processes, iron-rich deposits hardened over time, tree roots or fossilized reeds mineralized into pipe-like shapes, or volcanic activity created cavities later filled with sediment and minerals. However, skeptics note that the precision of certain formations, straight lines, right-angle junctions, and intersections resembling a primitive piping system suggests intentional design. Could these tubes have once been functional, channeling water or other materials, or are they simply geological coincidences elevated by perception? The site itself adds layers to the mystery. The Baigong Pipes are found in clusters, some embedded in rock formations, estimated to be hundreds of thousands, if not millions of years old. Radiometric dating of nearby formations complicates the narrative. If the surrounding rock predates modern human civilization, who or what could have created such structures? And if humans were responsible, what technology or understanding enabled their construction so long ago? Some researchers propose extraordinary possibilities. Could the pipes represent a lost civilization, a precursor culture with engineering capabilities far exceeding what conventional history allows? Are they remnants of ancient water systems, mining operations, or ritual structures now obscured by time and sediment? Fringe hypotheses even suggest extraterrestrial involvement, positing that the pipe's precise geometry and unusual composition hint at knowledge or techniques beyond terrestrial origin. While such ideas remain speculative, they underscore the enduring fascination of the site. Physical analysis raises additional questions. Some pipes contain mineralized deposits, while others appear hollow and lightweight, yet resist conventional drilling or sampling. The junctions where pipes intersect are often remarkably clean, with shapes resembling modern engineering joints. Could this imply a sophisticated understanding of materials and geometry, or is it a natural quirk amplified by our perception of patterns? And why do some pipes terminate abruptly in solid rock, while others extend outward toward the open landscape or toward the nearby lake? The surrounding terrain reinforces the sense of enigma. Mount Baigong is itself a dramatic formation. Jagged peaks, deep caves, and eroded cliffs. In the valleys, saline lakes reflect the sky like mirrors, and the air is dry and still, carrying a sense of timeless isolation. The pipes, partially buried and partially exposed, emerge like skeletal remains of an ancient, invisible infrastructure, silent, stark, and profoundly puzzling. Could their placement relate to ancient water collection, ceremonial practice, or navigation of the terrain? Or is their pattern entirely coincidental, a product of nature's unpredictable artistry? Walking through the site today, one senses both awe and disquiet. The pipes, emerging from rock and soil like the veins of the earth itself, demand attention. They provoke questions not just of science, but of human imagination. How do we interpret structures that seem to straddle the line between natural formation and deliberate construction? And what might they tell us about the planet's history, the possibility of lost cultures, or the unknown ingenuity of ancient peoples? Despite decades of study, the Baigong Pipes remain unresolved. Some scientists argue they are geological, others insist human intervention is possible, and still others propose theories beyond current comprehension. The scarcity of corroborating evidence, tools, habitation sites, or written records renders definitive conclusions impossible. Yet the pipes endure, resisting categorization and compelling observers to confront uncertainty, ambiguity, and wonder. Could there be additional networks of pipes hidden deeper within the mountain or submerged beneath the lake? Might further investigation reveal tools, artifacts, or evidence of human engineering, or will the mystery remain buried in rock and time? And if these formations are indeed artificial, what does that suggest about the capabilities and ambitions of those who created them, or the civilizations that preceded us? The Baigong Pipes, rust-colored and enigmatic, remain a testament to the tension between natural wonder and human curiosity. They are at once physical objects, silent witnesses to geological processes, and catalysts for questions that reach beyond the known limits of history and archaeology. As the sun sets over the rugged peaks and the lake's surface shimmers with reflected light, one cannot help but wonder how much of our planet's history remains hidden, waiting to challenge our assumptions, provoke our curiosity, and remind us that some mysteries endure stubbornly and silently through the ages. The pipes emerge from stone, from time, from the imagination of all who encounter them, a tangible enigma, quietly urging exploration, reflection, and the patient pursuit of understanding. From the rust-colored pipes of Mount Baigong, embedded in Chinese rock and shrouded in enigma, we journey westward across continents to the arid landscapes of New Mexico, where another perplexing artifact rests, half hidden in the shadow of the Sandia Mountains, the Los Lunas Decalogue Stone. At first glance, the stone seems ordinary, a massive boulder of dark basalt, weathered and unremarkable, set against the sweeping desert and scrubland. Yet etched across its broad, flat surface are lines of characters carved deeply into the rock, forming a complete text, a version of the Ten Commandments written in an ancient script resembling Paleo-Hebrew. The lettering is precise, angular, and unfamiliar, and the very presence of such a text in this remote part of North America is a puzzle that has ignited curiosity and debate for decades. The stone was first brought to scholarly attention in the 1930s, though local legend hints that it had long been known to inhabitants of the region. Scholars, explorers, and amateur researchers have examined it since, attempting to decipher the inscription, verify its age, and determine its origin. Mainstream archaeologists remain skeptical, suggesting the carving could be a hoax, a misinterpretation, or a product of modern exposure to ancient texts. Yet the stone's placement, high against a mountainside, difficult to access, and integrated into the natural contours of the rock, gives the impression of deliberate intention. The characters themselves are compelling. They bear a strong resemblance to early Hebrew script used in the first millennium BCE, but not identical to any surviving examples. The precision of the carvings, the uniform depth and alignment, suggest they were created with considerable skill. Who might have inscribed these letters, and when? If authentic, the implications are extraordinary. A presence of ancient Near Eastern knowledge in a region far removed from known trade or migration routes. Could explorers or travelers from distant lands have crossed the Atlantic centuries before conventional history records? Or is the stone a more recent creation, designed to provoke or mislead? The stone's context adds to its intrigue. The surrounding desert is littered with petroglyphs and remnants of indigenous habitation, yet none resemble the characters etched into the Decalogue stone. There is no corroborating evidence of a broader Hebrew presence, no pottery, tools, or settlement remains. Yet the craftsmanship of the stone, the choice of location, and the survival of the inscription through centuries of weathering all suggest an intentional effort to preserve knowledge in a remote, enduring place. Speculative interpretations abound. Some researchers propose that the stone was a message left by explorers, traders, or even mariners from ancient Israel or Phoenicia long before Columbus. Others suggest it was carved by later settlers, familiar with ancient Hebrew scripts, who wished to leave a spiritual or esoteric message for posterity. Theories range from religious pilgrimage, secret societies, and cultural diffusion to more extraordinary ideas of pre-Columbian transoceanic contact. Each hypothesis raises questions as compelling as the stone itself: who, how, and why. The physical features of the carving provoke further contemplation. The lines of text follow the contours of the rock naturally, yet with remarkable consistency. Certain letters are slightly eroded, while others remain sharply defined, suggesting differential exposure to wind and precipitation. Could this pattern indicate age, a long period of weathering, or recent alteration? And what of the sheer audacity of the placement, high on a boulder commanding a view over the valley below, visible yet protected from casual disturbance? Was the location chosen for symbolism, visibility, or simple practicality? Walking around the stone, one notices its integration with the surrounding landscape. Small crevices collect rainwater. Desert winds carve echoes across the mountainside. The boulder seems less a passive object than a silent witness, perched to endure the elements and time. Every angle, every line of text seems designed to provoke contemplation, hinting at a message meant to endure beyond the generations that created it. The Los Lunas Decalogue stone also challenges our understanding of historical diffusion. Paleo-Hebrew script, though ancient, is not documented anywhere in pre-Columbian America. Could the stone represent evidence of lost voyages, shared knowledge across oceans, or an intentional act of cultural transplantation? Or is it the product of a later mind, fascinated by the distant past and skilled enough to render a convincing artifact? Each interpretation deepens the mystery, highlighting the tension between possibility and skepticism. Even today, researchers return to the site, measuring, photographing, and attempting to decipher the inscription. Advanced imaging reveals subtle chisel marks, slight variations in depth, and areas where weathering has revealed layers of rock beneath the surface. Yet no consensus emerges. The stone remains a puzzle, a single tangible piece of evidence that resists easy explanation. Could the inscription hold additional messages, secrets encoded in the choice of words, spacing, or orientation? Or is it simply a singular statement, enigmatic precisely because it defies context? As the sun sets over the desert and the shadows stretch across the foothills of the Sandia Mountains, the Decalogue stone seems to absorb the fading light, standing silently as it has for centuries. It is a reminder of the endurance of human curiosity, of the ways we attempt to communicate across time, and of the mysteries that continue to challenge our understanding of history. How many other artifacts like it lie hidden in remote valleys, mountains, or deserts, waiting to challenge assumptions about human movement, knowledge, and ingenuity? And what truths might the stone ultimately reveal if studied with patience, insight, and imagination? The Los Lunas Decalogue. Stone endures, a monolith of ambiguity and wonder, bridging continents, cultures, and epochs. It is a quiet challenge to all who encounter it, inviting reflection, study, and the timeless question: what stories, histories, or messages from the distant past are still hidden, waiting for discovery? From the weathered boulder of New Mexico and the inscribed enigma of the Los Lunas Decalogue stone, we journey southward across the continent to the dense tropical lowlands of Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula. Here, amidst the vibrant green of the jungle, rises one of the most remarkable remnants of the ancient Maya civilization, the Chichen Itza Observatory, known locally as El Caracol. At first glance, El Caracol seems almost unassuming. Its cylindrical tower, perched atop a rectangular platform, stands in contrast to the stepped pyramids and sprawling plazas of Chichen Itza. Yet its form is enigmatic. A spiraling staircase ascends the interior, curving along the walls of the tower, while windows and apertures punctuate the stone exterior at precise angles, facing the cardinal directions, solstices, and equinoxes. Sunlight striking the tower at certain times of year creates striking alignments and shadows, hinting at purposes that go beyond mere construction. The Maya, who flourished between roughly 600 and 1200 CE, are renowned for their astronomical sophistication. El Caracol, however, stands apart even within this advanced culture. The building's circular design is rare in Maya architecture, which typically favored rectilinear forms. Scholars believe that its construction was intimately connected to the observation of celestial bodies, tracking Venus, the Moon, and the Sun, as well as the precise movement of stars across the sky. Its windows appear positioned to mark solstices, equinoxes, and possibly lunar cycles. Could the tower have functioned as a calendar, a ritual observatory, or both? Inside, the spiral staircase adds a layer of mystery. Ascending the interior, one notices the small apertures arranged at irregular intervals. Were these designed to allow precise sight lines to distant celestial objects, or were they symbolic, representing the movement of planets, deities, or cycles of time itself? Mainstream theory emphasizes practicality. The Maya were meticulous astronomers who integrated observation into civic and ceremonial life. Yet the sheer elegance and precision of El Caracol suggest intentionality that transcends mere utility, hinting at an aesthetic and spiritual dimension. Speculative interpretations extend the mystery further. Some researchers propose that El Caracol may have been used for advanced observations of planetary conjunctions, eclipses, and other phenomena, allowing Maya priests to predict and manipulate agricultural cycles, religious rituals, and social events. Others suggest that the tower embodies cosmological symbolism, its spiral form representing the cyclical nature of time, the path of the heavens, or a conduit between earth and the divine. Could the building itself have been a tool for encoding sacred knowledge preserved in stone for generations to interpret? The precision of the structure is particularly striking. The alignment of windows and doorways correlates closely with solar positions on the equinoxes and solstices. Shadows cast along the spiral staircase create patterns that could serve as visual markers, revealing astronomical events with remarkable accuracy. Was this purely functional, or does it also reflect a symbolic narrative, a dialogue between humans and the cosmos? Could the tower have been both a laboratory and a temple, simultaneously practical and sacred? The broader context of Chichen Itza deepens the intrigue. The city's plazas, pyramids, and ball courts demonstrate a culture of architectural mastery, mathematical understanding, and ritual significance. El Caracol, however, occupies a space apart from the city's main ceremonial centers, tucked slightly to the east. Its isolation raises questions. Was it intended for elite astronomers, seers, or priests? Was it a place for experimentation, observation, and recording of celestial movements, accessible only to those initiated into the deepest layers of Maya knowledge? The tower also challenges assumptions about Maya capabilities. Its circular form, spiral staircase, and carefully positioned apertures suggest advanced planning, precise measurement, and a deep understanding of the relationship between the earth and sky. Could knowledge embedded in its design include not only observation, but calculations of eclipses, planetary cycles, or even predictive astronomy? If so, what did this knowledge mean for the Maya worldview, governance, and ritual practice? Walking around El Caracol today, one cannot help but sense a dialogue between the building and the heavens. The structure seems to breathe with the passage of time, responding to the sun, moon, and stars with subtle shifts of light and shadow. Each window, each curve, feels deliberate, a record of knowledge encoded in stone. And yet, despite centuries of study, questions remain. How precise were the Maya observations? What data did they record, and what did it mean to the society they served? Even with modern technology, laser scanning, 3D modeling, and astronomical simulations, El Caracol resists complete interpretation. Some features align perfectly with celestial events, while others appear irregular, raising the possibility of unknown factors influencing its design. Could there be hidden patterns, symbolic layers, or calendrical markers that remain undiscovered? How much of the Maya's astronomical and spiritual knowledge is captured here, waiting to be decoded? As the afternoon sun dips low over the jungle canopy, casting long shadows across the tower and the surrounding plaza, El Caracol stands as both a testament and a question. It is an enduring reminder that human curiosity, observation, and reverence for the cosmos can manifest in extraordinary ways, leaving structures that communicate across centuries. What other insights remain encoded in the stone, in the placement of windows, or in the curve of the spiral staircase? What wisdom did the Maya intend to preserve, and how much is still lost to time? The Chichen Itza Observatory endures, a monument to precision, observation, and imagination. Perched amidst the dense Yucatan jungle, it invites us to consider not only the ingenuity of the Maya, but the mysteries of the sky, the cosmos, and the knowledge that civilizations can leave behind, waiting for those who look carefully enough to see. From the lush Yucatan jungles and the circular precision of El Caracol, our journey now moves westward to the flat, fertile plains of southern Mesopotamia, where the earliest civilizations of humanity took root between the rivers Tigris and Euphrates. It is here, in what is now modern-day Iraq, that one of the most enigmatic artifacts of recorded history emerges: the Sumerian king list. At first glance, the king list appears deceptively simple: a clay tablet, worn with age, inscribed with neat columns of cuneiform writing. Yet, these markings hold a narrative unlike any other. The list chronicles the rulers of Sumer, an ancient civilization dating back to the 3rd millennium BCE, and stretches across epochs, recording reigns of astonishing lengths for the earliest kings, sometimes lasting tens of thousands of years. Names of rulers are followed by their cities and their years of reign, culminating eventually in the more historically verifiable dynasties of Uruk, Ur, and Lagash. The tablet itself is fragile, often fragmented, yet the text endures, its message as intriguing today as when it was first inscribed over 4,000 years ago. Scholars have long debated its meaning. Was it an attempt to create a continuous history of Sumerian civilization, blending myth and reality? Or was it more symbolic, a reflection of divine favor, or the cultural memory of an age now obscured by time? The extreme lengths of reign attributed to early kings raise fundamental questions. Were these purely mythological, intended to connect human rulers to gods, or could they hint at a lost understanding of time, longevity, or historical recording? The context of the king list further deepens its mystery. Found in multiple copies at different Mesopotamian sites, including Nippur, Ur, and Larsa, the tablets reveal a consistent tradition of recording rulers, yet the narrative is selective. Some rulers are omitted entirely, some cities dominate certain versions of the list while barely appearing in others. Was this selective recording a political statement, a reflection of shifting power, or a deliberate framing of history designed to legitimize certain dynasties over others? The blending of myth and history is particularly striking. The earliest entries include kings said to have ruled before a flood that swept across the land, a catastrophic event that resonates with later Mesopotamian flood narratives, including the Epic of Gilgamesh. Could these kings represent real figures whose lifespans were exaggerated over generations? Or were they symbolic, each reign a metaphor for the cumulative wisdom, achievements, or divine mandate of the Sumerians? The impossibly long reigns, some exceeding 28,000 years, challenge the imagination and invite speculation about what the ancients sought to communicate through these numbers. Scholars have also noted the remarkable organization of the king list. The systematic recording of kings, cities, and durations reflects a sophisticated understanding of administration, chronology, and the importance of historical memory. Even if some portions are legendary, the very act of creating such a list demonstrates a culture capable of abstract thought, record-keeping, and the desire to preserve a sense of continuity across generations. Yet it also raises questions. How much of this knowledge was derived from oral traditions, temple records, or lost sources? And how did the compilers decide which kings and events were worthy of inclusion? Speculative theories extend the enigma further. Some suggest that the extreme reigns could indicate forgotten knowledge of longevity, lost technology, or even interactions with beings beyond human understanding. Others propose that the king list encodes symbolic numerology, astronomical cycles, or ritualized concepts of time that remain obscured to modern interpretation. While these ideas remain speculative, they highlight the enduring fascination of the text, which straddles the boundary between myth, history, and human imagination. The tablet's physical presence reinforces its gravity. The soft, curved impressions of the cuneiform wedge, pressed into malleable clay thousands of years ago, create an intimate connection across millennia. Each line, each name, is a whisper from the past, a record of rulers whose very existence teeters between historical reality and mythological grandeur. Handling a tablet, or even examining its facsimile, evokes the voices of ancient scribes and the societies that entrusted them with the task of preserving memory. Even today, the Sumerian king list defies complete interpretation. Despite decades of scholarship, debates continue over which kings were real, which reigns were symbolic, and what purpose the extraordinary chronology served. Was it propaganda? A theological text? A mnemonic device for preserving lost histories? Or something more, an attempt to connect humanity to the divine, to reconcile mortal experience with cosmic time? Walking across the alluvial plains where Ur, Uruk, and Eridu once flourished, one can almost feel the weight of centuries pressing against the present. The rivers that nourished early civilizations continue to flow, yet the stories of kings, floods, and dynasties remain partially hidden in clay tablets, awaiting interpretation, understanding, and reflection. How much of what the Sumerians recorded was literal, symbolic, or encoded in ways we have yet to fully grasp? The Sumerian king list endures, a bridge between myth and history, chronology and imagination. It challenges modern assumptions about the origins of civilization, the recording of memory, and the human desire to preserve order against the erasure of time. As the sun sets over the Mesopotamian plains, casting long shadows across ancient ruins and riverbeds, one cannot help but ask, how much of humanity's earliest history remains obscured by myth, forgotten by time, or waiting patiently to be rediscovered? What truths lie hidden in the balance between legend and record, and how might they reshape our understanding of human beginnings? The king list, etched in clay and echoing across millennia, reminds us that some of history's deepest mysteries are not lost. They are simply waiting to be read, interpreted, and wondered over. From the ancient plains of Mesopotamia and the enigmatic Sumerian king list, our exploration shifts westward to the heart of the Roman Empire, where one of archaeology's quietest yet most perplexing mysteries awaits: the Roman dodecahedra. These small, hollow objects, 12-sided, typically cast in bronze, and punctuated with circular holes on each face, have been unearthed across Europe, from Britain to Hungary, their origin and purpose continuing to confound scholars and enthusiasts alike. At first glance, a Roman dodecahedron is deceptively simple. About the size of a fist, often resting now in museum display cases, it is geometrically precise. 12 pentagonal faces, each pierced by a circular aperture of varying diameter, with knobs projecting from each vertex. The metal, weathered and sometimes pitted by age, hints at centuries spent buried in soil or submerged in the earth, yet the form remains remarkably intact, preserving the symmetry and design choices of its makers. The craftsmanship suggests a society attentive to detail, geometry, and perhaps function. But for what purpose? Over 100 examples have been discovered, primarily from the 2nd and 3rd centuries CE, yet no contemporary texts describe them, no inscriptions indicate their use, and no records in Roman literature clarify their significance. Were they practical tools, ceremonial objects, or symbols of knowledge? The distribution of the dodecahedra, found primarily along the borders of the empire, in regions of Gaul, Germania, and Pannonia, adds another layer of intrigue. Why do these objects appear at the fringes of Roman control, rather than in the urban centers of Rome itself? Scholars have offered several conventional explanations. Some suggest they may have functioned as candle holders, with the hollow interior and apertures diffusing light in specific ways. Others propose measuring devices, perhaps for surveying or calibrating distance, based on the variation in hole diameters. A more ritualistic interpretation posits that they were astrological tools, used by Roman priests or magi to track celestial movements, casting shadows through the apertures to interpret omens or mark seasons. Yet despite careful study, no single theory fully satisfies, and each object seems to resist definitive categorization. The construction of the dodecahedra itself is remarkable. The geometric precision of the 12 faces, the uniformity of the holes, and the carefully formed knobs suggest the intervention of skilled artisans, familiar with casting techniques and aware of geometric principles. Could these objects reflect advanced understanding of measurement, mathematics, or symbolic encoding? And if so, why would a culture as literate and documented as Rome leave no written record explaining them? Some fringe theories have emerged, offering more speculative possibilities. Certain researchers propose that the dodecahedra may have been calibration tools for surveying or military engineering, used to estimate distances or angles in construction or artillery placement. Others suggest they could have been knitting or textile instruments, designed to measure the thickness of threads or tension in fabrics, a claim supported by the consistent size variation of the holes across different examples. Yet no experiment has conclusively replicated their intended function, leaving each explanation open to debate. The placement of discovered dodecahedra is as puzzling as their design. Many are found in rural, often isolated areas, fields, riverbanks, or near roads connecting provinces. Does this hint at a practical function tied to travel, measurement, or trade? Or is their location connected to ritual or symbolic use, perhaps offerings left along routes or boundaries to confer protection or favor? The absence of accompanying artifacts, inscriptions, or contemporary accounts renders these questions especially difficult to answer. Examining a dodecahedron closely, one becomes aware of the subtle elegance of the object. Each pentagonal face aligns perfectly with its neighbors. The holes vary in size, almost suggesting gradation or scaling. The knobs at vertices provide symmetry, a tactile dimension, and a hint at purpose beyond simple ornamentation. Could these features represent an interplay between art, mathematics, and utility, a fusion of Roman precision with symbolic meaning that modern observers struggle to decode? The mystery deepens when considering the cultural context. Romans were engineers, architects, and organizers of immense complexity. Yet even within a society of prolific documentation, from Vitruvius's treatises to the records of military campaigns, no mention of dodecahedra appears. What knowledge, what practice, or what belief did these objects embody that required silence or secrecy? Were they tools reserved for specialized groups, perhaps linked to ritual craft, or military expertise? Or were they objects of curiosity, intended to engage the mind and senses rather than fulfill a utilitarian role? Even today, scholars attempt to reverse engineer the dodecahedra, studying dimensions, distributions, and potential functions. Some experiments involve measuring shadow patterns, testing fit for rods in the holes, or simulating textile use. Each approach offers tantalizing hints, yet none fully explains the proliferation, precision, or cultural significance of the objects. Their origin remains as obscured as the motives of the hands that shaped them, their purpose lost to centuries of silence. Holding or observing a Roman dodecahedron evokes a rare sensation, a tangible link to a civilization we know through texts, coins, and ruins, yet one that deliberately, or perhaps inadvertently, leaves us with an enigma in miniature. What knowledge or tradition was encoded within these small, symmetrical forms? What rituals, practices, or daily tasks might they have been part of, now erased from written record? As we stand in the imagined streets of Roman towns or along the rivers of Germania, it is difficult not to marvel at the persistence of these objects, scattered across the landscape like quiet, metallic echoes of the past. They challenge assumptions about the completeness of historical knowledge and remind us that even well-documented civilizations can leave fragments of mystery, waiting to be interpreted. The Roman dodecahedra endure, silent, geometric, and elusive. Small objects that hint at knowledge, ritual, or utility now lost to time. They invite reflection on the creativity, ingenuity, and perhaps secrecy of their makers. What might we yet uncover about these artifacts, and what do they tell us about the fragments of history that survive, not in books or inscriptions, but in the objects themselves? The dodecahedra remain a quiet enigma, their purpose unknown, their story unfinished, compelling us to look closer, think deeper, and embrace the mystery that lies at the heart of human history. From the small, precise geometry of Roman dodecahedra scattered across the provinces of an empire, our journey now moves far south to the rolling hills and ancient rocks of South Africa, where one of the most understated yet perplexing archaeological mysteries resides: the Klerksdorp Spheres. At first glance, these objects appear almost mundane. Small, metallic spheres, typically less than a few centimeters in diameter, worn smooth by time and handling. Yet closer inspection reveals remarkable features. Some are perfectly round. Others display intricate ridges, grooves, or concentric rings etched into their surfaces. They are composed primarily of pyrophyllite, a soft mineral, yet their preservation over millions of years, embedded in rock formations dated to the Precambrian period, roughly 2.8 billion years ago, challenges conventional understanding of human history and tool-making. The spheres were discovered in the 1940s near the town of Klerksdorp, embedded within pyrophyllite deposits, a mineral commonly used in the region for ceramics and industrial applications. Geologists confirm that the surrounding rock is extraordinarily ancient, predating any known human civilization by billions of years. Yet these objects, with their near-perfect symmetry and apparent design, suggest intentionality, or at the very least, provoke questions that conventional geology struggles to answer fully. Mainstream science generally interprets the Klerksdorp spheres as concretions, naturally formed nodules created by mineral deposition over vast periods of time. Through slow accumulation and crystallization, mineral spheres and ovoids can take shape, occasionally producing strikingly regular forms. Yet the precision of some spheres, especially those with grooves that appear too uniform to be entirely natural, provokes doubt. How likely is it that natural processes alone would produce not only spherical forms but also ridges and parallel grooves with such apparent regularity? Some researchers have suggested that the grooves may result from internal stresses, shrinkage during mineralization, or even the influence of surrounding rock structures. Still, the consistency of the patterning across multiple specimens raises questions. Are these features purely incidental, or might they hint at processes we do not yet fully understand? Could they be evidence of phenomena in the Earth's crust that occasionally yield geometric perfection in unexpected ways? The sphere's distribution adds another layer to the mystery. Found across different layers of pyrophyllite, they vary in size and complexity. Some are simple and almost featureless, while others display intricate markings and ridges that seem too deliberate to be dismissed outright. Their presence in ancient rock beds, untouched by human activity until modern mining exposed them, challenges assumptions about their origin. Could some natural processes inadvertently produce features that mimic artificial design? Or are we witnessing the remnants of an unknown event or mechanism from deep in Earth's geological history? Speculative interpretations abound. Fringe theories suggest the spheres may represent prehistoric tools or artifacts, remnants of a technologically advanced civilization lost to time. Some propose that they were used as machinery components, navigational instruments, or even symbolic objects with cultural significance. While these ideas remain unsubstantiated, they capture the imagination precisely because the spheres resist straightforward classification. Their symmetry, patterning, and remarkable preservation invite speculation that stretches beyond the limits of conventional geology. Holding a Klerksdorp sphere evokes a rare sense of connection to deep time. Here is an object forged in the earth long before humans walked the planet, yet its form appears deliberate, almost purposeful. The grooves trace paths that seem intentional. The curvature is near perfect, and the smoothness suggests either long erosion or careful shaping. How do we reconcile this physical reality with our understanding of natural processes and ancient history? The spheres also remind us of the limitations of perspective. In modern laboratories, researchers measure their diameter, analyze their mineral composition, and attempt to replicate natural formation processes. Yet each experiment uncovers nuances, slight variations, inconsistencies, and features that defy easy explanation. Could these objects be telling us something about Earth's geological past, the forces that shaped the crust, or even the rare coincidences that occasionally produce geometric forms from natural phenomena? Or do they hint at something entirely different, something human or otherwise, entirely unknown? The cultural fascination with Klerksdorp spheres is part of their enduring appeal. They have been exhibited in museums, discussed in scholarly articles, and featured in speculative documentaries. Yet every exploration only deepens the mystery. The sphere's unassuming size belies the profound questions they pose. How did they form? Could they ever have served a purpose? And what other objects lie hidden in the earth, silently challenging our assumptions about the history of our planet and the capabilities of natural forces? Even today, in the quiet hills near Klerksdorp, where the reddish earth meets ancient rock, these spheres remain mostly unseen, their origin unresolved, their secrets intact. They are objects of patient intrigue, demanding careful observation, scientific inquiry, and a willingness to sit with uncertainty. In their smooth surfaces, concentric rings, and delicate symmetry, one senses both the vastness of geological time and the persistent human impulse to question, interpret, and imagine. The Klerksdorp spheres endure, small and unassuming, yet monumental in the questions they inspire. They invite us to reconsider the narrative of Earth's deep past, to wonder at the processes that shape the planet, and to confront the possibility that some mysteries embedded in rock and time may never be fully explained. As sunlight glints off the smooth metallic surfaces of a sphere resting in the hand, one cannot help but reflect. Are these the result of chance, deep earth processes, or something more extraordinary? And if more such artifacts exist, waiting quietly beneath the surface, what might they reveal about the hidden chapters of our planet's long and enigmatic history? The Klerksdorp Spheres remain a silent testament to mystery, patience, and wonder, a small but enduring bridge between the incomprehensible vastness of geological time and the human quest to understand the past. From the smooth, enigmatic Klerksdorp Spheres of South Africa, we turn once more to the east, to the verdant plains of Zhejiang Province in China, where a network of subterranean chambers, carved with meticulous precision and vast scale, has challenged archaeologists and explorers for decades. The Longyu Caves. At first glance, the caves are almost impossible to grasp in their entirety. They are immense underground chambers, some spanning over 1,500 square meters, with ceilings reaching heights of more than 30 feet, all carved from solid sandstone. The walls, floors, and ceilings are etched with deliberate patterns of parallel lines and square grids, forming a geometric lattice that stretches across each surface with astonishing consistency. Walking through the caves today, the scale and precision are immediately evident. Every wall appears measured, every incision carefully executed. Yet the caves exist without a single inscription, date, or record attributing them to a known builder or dynasty. Discovered by villagers in 1992 while draining water from a pond, the Longyu Caves immediately drew attention for both their sheer size and the absence of historical documentation. Ancient Chinese records make no mention of their construction, leaving researchers to speculate. Who built these subterranean chambers, and for what purpose? The geometric engravings, uniform in width and depth, suggest intentionality that goes far beyond mere excavation. Could these grooves have served a functional purpose, structural reinforcement, water management, or ritual acoustics? Or were they primarily symbolic, designed to communicate meaning lost to time? Mainstream archaeologists have proposed that the caves were created using basic hand tools over centuries, a Herculean labor project possibly tied to regional authorities or local communities. Yet the precision, scale, and consistency of the carvings defy expectations of such ancient manual labor. The chambers are often interlinked, forming a labyrinth that is both architecturally coherent and structurally stable, as if the builders possessed not only immense patience but sophisticated engineering knowledge. How could such feats be accomplished with no contemporary record, in an era when monumental constructions were usually documented in imperial annals? The walls themselves are a riddle. The parallel lines, etched uniformly, form square or diamond patterns across surfaces, intersecting in ways that suggest measurement, rhythm, or pattern recognition. Could these have functioned as guides for construction, marking intervals for excavation and support? Or do they represent symbolic or ritual significance, a deliberate communication of order, cosmology, or sacred numerology? Even after careful examination, the purpose of these engravings remains elusive. Speculative interpretations stretch even further. Some researchers have suggested that the caves were ceremonial or ritual spaces designed for gatherings, meditation, or spiritual observances hidden from the surface world. Others propose more extraordinary ideas, that the caves were repositories of knowledge, secret shelters, or even subterranean observatories designed to interact with sound, light, or celestial patterns in ways we have yet to fully understand. The sheer labor invested hints at a civilization with both organization and motive, yet its story has vanished, leaving only the stone to whisper its secrets. The precision of the Longyu Caves evokes awe. Horizontal and vertical grooves maintain consistent width and spacing across vast surfaces. Columns appear perfectly aligned. The geometry is meticulous. Some surfaces are carved at angles, forming trapezoidal floors or slightly inclined ceilings, features that could influence drainage, acoustics, or structural stability. Were these choices practical, aesthetic, or symbolic? Could the builders have been exploring principles of harmony, proportion, and geometry unknown to the surrounding civilizations? Their scale also invites reflection. Carving thousands of cubic meters of sandstone by hand would have required tens of thousands of person-hours, careful planning, and logistical expertise. Who organized such monumental effort? Why leave no inscriptions, no artifacts, and no record of the endeavor? And if the caves were intended for public use, why were they hidden underground, accessible only by descent through carefully constructed entrances? Even the surrounding environment adds to the enigma. The caves lie beneath agricultural land, now intersected by modern roads and villages, yet they remain extraordinarily well preserved. The sandstone resists erosion. Water drains naturally through carefully carved channels, and the geometric engravings remain sharp, as if deliberately designed to endure millennia. Could the creators have anticipated the ravages of time, crafting a legacy to speak silently across centuries? Exploration today is both exhilarating and humbling. Standing within a cavern, one can trace the parallel lines along the ceiling, feel the cool stillness of the subterranean air, and sense the human effort that must have gone into each incision. Every angle, every groove seems deliberate, yet their meaning remains just out of reach. Are we witnessing a form of ancient communication, or an elaborate architectural experiment lost to history? The Longyou Caves endure as one of the most profound enigmas of human construction. They remind us that civilizations are capable of astonishing feats, sometimes leaving no written explanation, no trace beyond the enduring labor embedded in stone. How much knowledge, artistry, or intent lies hidden in their walls? What purposes, rituals, or discoveries prompted their creation? And what other secrets might the caves conceal beneath the shadows of their geometric precision? As the dim light filters into the subterranean halls, casting shadows along the etched patterns, one cannot help but wonder, who carved these monumental chambers, and why did they leave no record? How many mysteries of human ingenuity remain concealed beneath the earth, waiting for discovery, interpretation, and reflection? The Longyou Caves endure, silent and precise, a subterranean testament to labor, vision, and mystery. Their engravings, vast yet delicate, challenge our understanding of the past, inviting us to look deeper, think critically, and confront the astonishing possibilities of what remains hidden beneath the earth. From the subterranean geometry and silent grandeur of the Longyou Caves, our exploration moves across oceans and continents, to the humid lowlands and rolling hills of Costa Rica, where another enigma of stone emerges, the stone spheres of Costa Rica. Scattered across the dense vegetation and river valleys of the Diquís Delta and surrounding regions, these stones appear deceptively simple at first glance. They are spherical, smooth, and unnervingly precise, ranging in size from a few centimeters to more than 2 meters in diameter, and some weighing several tons. Yet their perfection, the near-flawless roundness and careful placement across ancient sites, suggests a level of craftsmanship and purpose that raises immediate questions. How were these spheres created with such precision, and why? The first documented encounters with the spheres occurred in the 1930s during agricultural clearing, though local legends hint at knowledge of them long before. Crafted from granodiorite, a dense igneous rock, the spheres required extraordinary effort to shape and transport, long before modern tools existed in the region. Many were found partially buried or in clusters, aligned in seemingly deliberate formations, often near ceremonial centers, plazas, or pathways of pre-Columbian settlements. Their placement hints at intentionality, yet their exact function remains elusive. Mainstream archaeology suggests that the spheres were created by the Diquís culture, flourishing between roughly 500 CE and 1500 CE, and may have served symbolic, ceremonial, or status-related purposes. Some propose that the spheres represented markers of power, social hierarchy, or territorial boundaries, while others suggest astronomical alignments, echoing the practice of other ancient civilizations using stones to track celestial events. Yet despite extensive study, no inscriptions, tools, or records explicitly explain their purpose, leaving ample room for speculation. The sphere's sheer precision continues to challenge researchers. While some appear almost mathematically perfect, others vary subtly, yet maintain a harmonious aesthetic, suggesting intentional design rather than accidental formation. The effort required to carve and polish stones weighing several tons raises further questions. How did the decipher move these massive spheres, transport them across uneven terrain, and position them with such apparent care, all without metal tools or wheeled vehicles? Could their placement involve ritual significance, astronomical observation, or symbolic communication across distances? Speculative interpretations extend the mystery even further. Some suggest that the spheres may have functioned as calendrical markers, aligning with solstices, equinoxes, or lunar cycles. Others propose cosmological symbolism, where each sphere represents celestial bodies, deities, or principles of order. Certain fringe theories even entertain the possibility of knowledge or influence beyond conventional explanation, highlighting the uncanny precision and smoothness of these stones as evidence of technologies or techniques lost to time. While such claims remain unverified, they underscore the profound sense of wonder that the spheres inspire. The spatial arrangements of the stones add yet another layer of intrigue. Some clusters form straight lines, suggesting pathways or processional routes, while others appear in circular or elliptical configurations, perhaps marking ceremonial plazas or communal gathering points. Could these arrangements have been deliberate expressions of cosmology, aligning earth and sky, humans and ancestors? Or were they markers of social hierarchy, with placement reflecting political or ritual importance? Even the tactile experience of the spheres evokes fascination. Running a hand along the surface reveals smoothness almost unnatural in its consistency, achieved through laborious grinding and polishing. Some spheres display subtle imperfections or grooves, raising questions about whether these were intentional, symbolic, or the result of natural erosion over centuries. Their physicality, weight, and permanence give them a presence that demands contemplation, a silent testimony of effort, skill, and perhaps meaning we no longer fully grasp. The context of the surrounding region adds to the enigma. The Diquis Delta, rich in rivers and fertile lands, was a hub of pre-Columbian culture, where communities engaged in agriculture, trade, and ceremonial life. The spheres appear deliberately integrated into this landscape, yet their monumental effort contrasts sharply with the apparent simplicity of other artifacts from the same period. Why dedicate such labor and skill to crafting spheres, rather than utilitarian tools or structures? Could the answer lie in spirituality, governance, or cosmological belief systems that remain largely undocumented? Even today, conservation efforts reveal the spheres in varying conditions, some perfectly preserved, others cracked or displaced. They sit quietly in museums or partially buried at excavation sites, continuing to provoke wonder and debate. Modern analysis, including measurements of diameter, symmetry, and placement, confirms the meticulous care taken by their creators. Yet, despite centuries of archaeological work, their ultimate purpose, method of creation, and cultural meaning remain unresolved. The stone spheres of Costa Rica endure as a quiet but profound mystery. They are at once ordinary and extraordinary, small enough to be held, yet monumental in ambition and labor. simple in form, yet suggestive of knowledge, symbolism, and design sophistication. They evoke questions not only about the decay culture but also about human ingenuity, the impulse to create meaning in stone, and the enduring power of objects to communicate across millennia. As the tropical sun filters through the canopy and the distant hum of insects fills the air, one cannot help but reflect. Why did the decay invest such effort into these perfect forms? What knowledge, ritual, or symbolism was embedded in their shapes, their placement, and their smooth surfaces? And how many other secrets of the ancient world remain quietly waiting beneath the earth, hidden yet preserved, whispering to those willing to look closely? The stone spheres endure, mysterious and immaculate, silent witnesses to human endeavor, vision, and wonder. They remind us that even in the humid jungles of Costa Rica, ancient hands sought to leave a lasting mark, one that continues to intrigue, inspire, and defy explanation. From the enigmatic stone spheres of Costa Rica, we return to the timeless sands of Egypt, where the sprawling necropolis of Saqqara holds secrets etched not only in stone, but in the careful alignment of structures that have stood for nearly 5 millennia. Among these, the step pyramid of Djoser and its surrounding complex emerge as a testament to ingenuity, ritual, and mystery, its orientation and relationships to the stars sparking questions that endure even today. The step pyramid rises in deliberate layers, each mastaba-like tier stacked above the other in a visual rhythm of precision. It is surrounded by courtyards, chapels, and smaller tombs, forming a complex that is both functional and monumental. Yet beyond its immediate grandeur lies a subtle, almost imperceptible design language. The pyramid is oriented along cardinal points, and certain axes appear to align with significant celestial events, particularly the rising and setting of prominent stars in the ancient Egyptian sky. Standing among the carefully laid stones, one senses the precision, the intentionality, and the almost ritualistic care that guided its construction. Archaeologists generally attribute the step pyramid's alignment to the Egyptians' early mastery of astronomical observation, using the positions of stars to determine cardinal directions for religious and ceremonial purposes. Yet, some alignments are peculiar. Certain axes of the complex point not merely to the cardinal points, but to specific constellations and heliacal risings, raising questions about the depth of astronomical knowledge possessed by Djoser's architects. Were these alignments practical, spiritual, or a combination of both? Did they serve a calendrical function, marking the passage of seasons, or a symbolic one, connecting the earthly and the divine? Adding to the intrigue, the step pyramid is part of a broader necropolis that includes 3 other pyramids at Saqqara, lesser-known mastabas, and the surrounding necropolises of Memphis. The spatial relationships between these structures suggest careful planning over centuries. Could the placement of the step pyramid and its satellite tombs encode more than architectural order? Might the complex itself function as a cosmic map, reflecting celestial mechanics in stone? If so, what knowledge guided these alignments, and how was it preserved across generations without written record of astronomical methodology at the time? Speculative interpretations often extend this mystery further. Some researchers have proposed that the step pyramid's orientation could correlate with the circumpolar stars, which never set below the horizon, embodying concepts of eternity, divine permanence, or afterlife pathways. Others point to the pyramid's proximity to sacred sites and its alignment with the Nile as potentially symbolic, connecting terrestrial and celestial domains in ways still not fully understood. Could these alignments have been a form of ritualized architecture, designed to merge religious belief, political power, and cosmic understanding into one cohesive vision? The pyramid's construction itself deepens the enigma. Carved blocks, precise corners, and carefully leveled tiers all suggest remarkable skill, planning and labor management. Yet it is the combination of this physical craftsmanship with subtle celestial orientation that continues to intrigue. The ancient architects may have possessed observational tools lost to us today, or perhaps their understanding of the heavens relied on careful, systematic tracking over decades. How much knowledge was encoded in this arrangement, and how was it transmitted from astronomer to architect, from priest to builder? Even the surrounding desert landscape plays a role. From above, the complex reveals patterns that are imperceptible at ground level, suggesting that the Egyptians may have conceptualized the step pyramid not only in relation to the stars, but also in relation to the broader topography of Saqqara. Certain alignments coincide with distant hills or valleys, creating visual axes that guide the eye and perhaps the spirit. Were these elements part of a grand ceremonial choreography intended to integrate landscape, architecture, and sky into a single sacred tableau? Intriguingly, subtle variations in orientation between structures within the complex raise additional questions. Some chapels and subsidiary tombs deviate slightly from the main pyramid's axis, hinting at corrections, experimentation, or a symbolic hierarchy encoded in space itself. Could these deviations have held meaning lost to time? Did they represent shifts in ritual practice, astronomical recalibration, or political power? Each angle, each shift, suggests intention, yet the reasoning remains veiled. The step pyramid's alignment also invites reflection on human ambition and curiosity. Constructed over a millennium before the Great Pyramid of Giza, it demonstrates that early Egyptian builders were already capable of integrating monumental architecture with astronomical observation. Yet the precise knowledge, methods, and cosmological principles remain largely inferred rather than documented. The stones speak more eloquently than any surviving papyrus, yet their message is partial, demanding interpretation, imagination, and careful study. Standing today amidst the step pyramid and the silent stones of Saqqara, one senses both permanence and mystery. The pyramid is at once a physical achievement and an intellectual enigma, its stepped tiers a reminder of human ingenuity, and its alignment a hint at knowledge that transcends what has survived in writing. How much of this precision was intentional, and how much remains beyond our understanding? How many cosmic calculations, ceremonial principles, or lost techniques are preserved only in the angles, axes, and alignments that endure to this day? The Saqqara step pyramid alignment continues to inspire awe, bridging human aspiration with the cosmos, inviting reflection on the interplay of architecture, ritual, and celestial observation. It whispers across millennia. What was the full intent of its builders? What secrets of astronomy, symbolism, and sacred design might still lie hidden within its stones? And how many more layers of meaning wait silently beneath the sands, challenging us to look closer, think deeper, and marvel at the ingenuity of ancient Egypt? From the towering stone monuments of Saqqara, where architecture and astronomy converge in silent dialogue with the cosmos, we now travel northwest to the fertile valleys and rolling hills of the Central Balkans, where one of Europe's earliest and most enigmatic expressions of human creativity awaits: the Vinca Figurines of Serbia. Unearthed over a century ago along the banks of the Danube and Morava rivers, these small clay figures, often no larger than a human hand, evoke both curiosity and profound mystery. Crafted by the Vinca culture, which flourished between roughly 5,700 and 4,500 BCE, the figurines are remarkable for their abstract, stylized features: delicate torsos, exaggerated eyes, and intricate patterns etched into their surfaces. Some appear humanoid, while others suggest hybrid forms, perhaps merging human and animal traits. The care and attention evident in each piece hint at ritual significance, symbolic meaning, or a form of early artistic expression that resonates across millennia. Archaeologists widely agree that the Vinca figurines played a role in ritual or religious practices, possibly connected to fertility, social status, or community identity. Many are female in form, their rounded features interpreted as representations of fertility deities or maternal symbolism. Yet the uniformity of certain motifs, the triangular torsos, oval faces, and paired incisions, suggests more than mere decoration. Could these patterns encode information, tell stories, or serve as a proto-writing system, hinting at the cognitive complexity of this early European society? The context of their discovery adds another layer of intrigue. The figurines were found in domestic settings, burial sites, and sanctuaries, often alongside pottery, tools, and ornaments. Their placement indicates both everyday and ceremonial use, yet their meaning remains opaque. Some figurines show wear that suggests handling, while others appear pristine, as if intended primarily for display or spiritual veneration. What drove the distinction between these pieces? Were some intended for ritual interaction and others as symbolic markers of belief or status? Speculative interpretations deepen the mystery. Certain scholars have proposed that the Vinca figurines may represent early forms of symbolic communication, perhaps a precursor to writing. Patterns on some figurines resemble repetitive symbols or incisions, raising the possibility that these objects conveyed meaning beyond their physical form. Could these small artifacts have encoded knowledge, ancestry, or sacred concepts in a society for which we have no written record? Alternatively, might they have functioned as amulets or talismans, objects believed to possess protective or transformative power in a world guided by spiritual forces? The craftsmanship itself invites reflection. Many figurines exhibit remarkable symmetry and proportionality, achieved without the benefit of kilns capable of extreme heat or metal tools. The clay was carefully shaped, fired at low temperatures, and sometimes painted or incised with geometric motifs. This suggests a sophisticated understanding of material properties, artistic convention, and symbolic representation. How did the Vinca people acquire such precision, and what cultural or ritual knowledge informed these choices? Some figurines portray enigmatic postures or gestures. Arms may be folded or extended, heads tilted, and facial features rendered with stylized emphasis, especially the eyes. Scholars have debated the significance of these forms. Are they merely aesthetic, or do they convey intention, narrative, or identity? Could the repeated motifs indicate shared cultural or religious knowledge passed from artisan to artisan, generation to generation, in a society that left no written account? The distribution of these artifacts across the Vinca heartland suggests a culture with both regional cohesion and diversity of expression. Figurines were not isolated creations. They appear in clusters within settlements, pointing to communal significance. The coexistence of everyday objects alongside these figurines highlights their dual nature as both practical and symbolic. Did the Vinca people view these figures as conduits between the human and spiritual worlds, objects that mediated social cohesion, or tools for ritual observance? Even today, the figurines maintain an aura of quiet mystery. Holding one feels the imprint of human intention, the care of hands that lived thousands of years ago, and the deliberate shaping of form and meaning. The abstract nature of these objects simultaneously obscures and reveals, inviting interpretation while resisting definitive explanation. Their eyes, oversized and enigmatic, seem to peer across the ages, a reminder of the cognitive and cultural depth of early societies. The Vinca figurines endure as both art and enigma. They exemplify the intersection of human creativity, spiritual expression, and social organization in Neolithic Europe. Yet their full significance remains elusive. What stories, rituals, or beliefs are encoded in clay? What knowledge or symbolism guided their creation? and how much of the cultural world of the Vinca people lies permanently hidden, accessible only through the silent testimony of these small, compelling forms. As one wanders the rolling hills and river valleys of Serbia, imagining the ancient settlements from which these figurines emerged, it is difficult not to feel a profound connection to the people who shaped them. In the curves of a torso, the incisions of a pattern, and the abstract gaze of a figure, we glimpse a society capable of both artistry and complex thought. Yet their world, like their figurines, remains partially concealed, an enduring invitation to study, wonder, and reflect. The Vinca figurines remain silent witnesses to human imagination, ritual, and culture, bridging the millennia between past and present. They compel us to ask, what meaning, now lost, did they hold? What fragments of early human thought and belief survive only in these small, enigmatic forms? And how many more mysteries of ancient Europe await discovery, quietly lying beneath the earth, whispering across time? From the small yet profound Vinca figurines of Serbia, we journey across the Atlantic to the subtropical landscape of Florida, where a singular monument of human ambition and mystery rises from the coral-laden earth. Coral Castle in Homestead, USA. Unlike the structured pyramids of Egypt or the enigmatic spheres of Costa Rica, Coral Castle is an intricate labyrinth of massive stone sculptures, shaped and positioned with an artistry and precision that continues to astonish and confound. At first glance, Coral Castle seems almost impossible. Over 1,100 tons of oolite limestone were quarried, sculpted, and arranged into walls, towers, obelisks, and tables, some weighing several tons each. Doors pivot with astonishing ease despite their immense weight, and precisely carved stone furniture, fountains, and astronomical alignments populate the compound with a quiet, contemplative energy. Every surface is smoothed, every curve deliberate, and yet there is no historical record of large crews, cranes, or machinery, only the enigmatic figure of Ed Leedskalnin, a solitary man working at night over nearly 3 decades. Leedskalnin, a Latvian immigrant, claimed he understood the secrets of the pyramids, suggesting that he had unlocked the principles of leverage, magnetism, or weight manipulation. While skeptics point to simple ingenuity, pulleys, and basic mechanical advantage, the scale of Coral Castle challenges conventional logic. How could a single man, often working in isolation, quarry, transport, and sculpt massive blocks with such precision without machinery, scaffolding, or modern tools? Mainstream historians acknowledge Leedskalnin's achievement as a remarkable feat of engineering and determination, yet even detailed documentation fails to explain the subtleties of Coral Castle. Certain doors, weighing several tons, rotate on their hinges with the lightest touch. Stones balance with perfect alignment, and complex arrangements appear to form functional and symbolic patterns throughout the property. Was Leedskalnin simply a master of ingenuity, or did he exploit forces or techniques that remain misunderstood today? Speculative interpretations abound. Some enthusiasts suggest that Leedskalnin tapped into anti-gravitational principles, magnetic fields, or undiscovered scientific laws to manipulate stone effortlessly. Others interpret Coral Castle as a manifestation of a personal cosmology where astronomical alignment, geometry, and symbolic references intersect. Certain structures appear oriented with celestial bodies, the solstices and lunar positions, hinting that Leedskalnin may have encoded knowledge of the heavens into his creation, transforming stone into both functional art and celestial map. The materials themselves offer intrigue. The limestone blocks, quarried locally, are soft enough to carve by hand, yet heavy and dense once transported. Leedskalnin claimed that he worked alone at night to avoid observation, a statement that contributes to the legend and mystique. Witness accounts describe him moving massive blocks seemingly without effort, leading to questions about hidden methods, lost techniques, or perhaps knowledge of physics that transcended conventional understanding. Could there be principles in leverage, counterweight, or mechanical advantage that, once fully understood, explain these feats without venturing into the extraordinary? Or is there something more subtle, more mysterious at play? The aesthetic of Coral Castle itself reinforces its enigmatic nature. Walls curve seamlessly, doors pivot almost magically, and sculptures combine utility and artistry with uncanny precision. The spaces invite exploration, contemplation, and even meditation, suggesting that the site was more than a personal labor of love. It may have been a deliberate expression of Leedskalnin's worldview, philosophy, or understanding of natural forces. Every corner, every pivoting door, every sculpted chair evokes both awe and inquiry. Even the engineering challenges provoke wonder. Aligning massive blocks on irregular terrain, ensuring balanced rotation of doors, and maintaining structural stability over decades, while working alone, requires both intuition and practical knowledge. Was Leedskalnin a genius of observation, deducing principles from nature and geometry? Or did he stumble upon methods now lost, perhaps simple in principle but elusive in execution without direct demonstration? The broader cultural fascination with Coral Castle lies in its blend of artistry, engineering, and mystery. Visitors describe a sense of quiet astonishment, as if the stones themselves hold secrets waiting to be understood. The compound's relative seclusion, combined with its intricate details, creates an immersive experience, a place where the boundaries between human skill and the seemingly impossible blur. One cannot help but question how much remains unobserved, untested, or simply beyond our current comprehension. Today, Coral Castle stands largely as Leedskalnin left it, silent, precise, and enigmatic. Its stones endure, weathering the subtropical climate, while the story of their creation continues to inspire debate, speculation, and admiration. Was it sheer persistence and mechanical ingenuity that made this possible, or does the site hint at deeper principles of physics, magnetism, or geometry, partially understood and partially mysterious? As sunlight glints across the smooth surfaces of the oolite limestone, casting long shadows across pivoting doors and sculpted tables, one is reminded that human determination, creativity, and curiosity can produce feats that defy easy explanation. Coral Castle is both a testament to personal obsession and a monument that challenges our assumptions about what is possible. The mystery of Coral Castle endures, not merely in the mechanics of moving tons of stone, but in the questions it raises about knowledge, ingenuity, and the human capacity to manipulate the physical world in ways that continue to elude full understanding. What secrets, hidden in Leedskalnin's methods, remain just beyond reach? And what does Coral Castle teach us about the interplay of obsession, skill, and the enduring allure of the unexplained? It stands, quiet and immovable, inviting the curious to explore, to wonder, and to confront the possibility that some mysteries, no matter how tangible, may forever keep their secrets.